We're locking in. You know who it is? You know what we're here to read. We're here to... Wait, hold up. I'm playing Nikkei music. Hold up. We're playing the wrong thing. You know what we're here to do? We're here to read. Yeah. People been calling me Mr. E after I'm like... almost... After I almost got sucked into the Aurora Order. You know, the nickname Mr. E ain't that bad, you know? It ain't that bad. I kind of like it. But for now... Chapter 570, as I awkwardly pause the video. All right, let's go. Chapter 570 is called Not Admitting or Denying. And why is she looking at Mr. Fool? Audrey, we're not going to stutter. Audrey sharply noticed the hermit's subtle motion. This left her somewhat suspicious. From her point of view, this was an atypical response. Mr. Hangman was clearly mentioning something that had little to do with everyone. He was talking about the so-called sea god Calvatua's ability to occasionally reply to its believers despite its apparent death. So why would Ma'am Hermit look towards Mr. Fool? Calvatua's death, occasionally replying to its believers. Ma'am Hermit is looking at Mr. Fool. Could it be? Audrey's eyes lit up. Oh my, everybody figure it out. Audrey's eyes lit up as she came to conclusion. Could it be that Mr. Fool is the one replying to Calvatua's believers? Ma'am Hermit knows about this. So, as thoughts wisp through her mind, Audrey had turned her body halfway to look expectantly at Mr. Fool, who was seated leisurely at the end of the long brown table. Meanwhile, Olga was also surprised and alarmed about the hermit's unexpected reaction. I was only trying to sound her out about what connection she has with the Moses Sent Order member, Leticia. Why would she suddenly turn to look at Mr. Fool? Could it be that she knows that the current sea god is a manifestation of Mr. Fool? Her reaction implies this is highly likely. Before she was recruited into the Terror Club, did she have a lot of secret exchanges with Mr. Fool and was already secretly working with him? Maybe. The more Olga thought, and the more he paid attention to the hermit, then he subconsciously joined her in looking towards Mr. Fool, who was shrouded in the grayish-white fog. The hermit and Justice turned around at different times, but their nearly unanimous actions made the magician Forrest and company notice something amiss. Why are they looking at Mr. Fool? The sea god Calvatua's death had something to do with Mr. Fool. Believing they were smart. Forrest and Emlyn began guessing at the reason as they cast their gaze at the end of the long bronze table. Derek didn't know who sea god Calvatua was, nor did he understand what it meant for it to respond to its believers even after its death. However, since everyone was looking at Mr. Fool, he naturally looked over as well. This has to be the same thing that's happening with Lilith. I'm taking my notes on season 2. Like, how is like Lilith responding if she allegedly fell? I guess you can kind of like this, right? Derek didn't know. I read this. The world was late by a second, as though he was deliberating over something. He first scanned Hangman, making him shudder in fear. Then he changed the direction of his gaze. At this point, Klein had already come to realize which detail Ma'am Hermit had used to guess that he was the one replying to sea god Calvatua's believers in its stead. He was still stumped over what stance to use. Should I pretend that it's a trivial matter and that I didn't take it to heart? But since you mentioned it, I'll just admit it in passing. Or should I take the stance that since I'm a god, there's no need for me to explain myself to you. So there's no need for me to admit or deny anything. Klein recalled the fool's persona and quickly made a decision. All right, so how's he going to approach this? The choice was to neither admit or deny anything so as to prevent him from losing his standing as a god. However, he would add a single sentence on a particular point, making those who had failed to guess it become more puzzled, while the suspicious ones who would be enlightened but would still be left shrouded in confusion as they realized deep down how unfathomable Mr. Fool was. Damn. We lagged? Did we lag? Oh, you're talking about Mr. World. He literally lagged IRL. I mean, he is a Smurf account, so it makes sense for him to lag IRL like that. With this in mind, Klein, who had leaned back, chuckled. He said leisurely and indifferently, Calvatua became a demigod by relying on a relic left behind by the Calamity Kohanim. So they're consulting Mr. Fool about the situation with the sea god, but that doesn't convince me. It feels like there's a deeper truth hidden behind this matter. Could it be that no way, right? Forrest frowned as she began coming up with all sorts of thoughts. As expected, Katleah. Oh my god, it's Katleah. Believed that Mr. Fool was giving a straightforward answer while also informing them of some secrets. That demigod scepter's Calvatua's characteristics of Calamity Kohanim's relic, or is it something that covers both definitions? Who is Calamity Kohanim? I'm saying it wrong, sorry. The name sounds elven. Yes, the hangman mentioned that Leticia found an ancient elven ruin. Is this the residence of a high elf? Maybe. How did Mr. Fool get the scepter? Did he reply, or the hangman, or someone else? No, it doesn't seem like the hangman. Otherwise, he wouldn't have proactively mentioned this matter. What motives does Mr. Fool have behind responding to Sea God believers? Is this required for his awakening, something that can truly affect reality? The more Leo thought, the more she found Mr. Fool unfathomable. It's just like how his body was being concealed by the thick gray fog. The clearer she could see him, the more puzzled, horrified, and apprehensive she became. This might be a tussle between gods. Leah signed inwardly, and emotions got the better of her. I guessed right. Fucking Alger. I fucking guessed it. It's like I called it. I guessed right. Alger finally verified that the present sea god was a manifestation of the fool. Wait, hold up. Yeah, that is true. His worries and indecision from before were instantly rewarded on certain occasions as a fake sea god believer. I can openly pray. I wonder how much Mr. Fool has recovered. How much of his powers can he release from the seal? It's at least a demigod level. He will be able to provide tremendous protections at sea. The hermit's unsurprised reaction implies that she had long interacted with Mr. Fool, who had learned of certain things ahead of time. This implies that her sequence isn't low. She might really be a powerhouse at the pirate admiral level. This is both good and bad news for me. The good news is that I have an additional powerful faction at sea supporting me. At times, we can technically cooperate in complete manners that were previously demanded unimaginable. The bad news is that a lot of news and resource channels will be overshadowed by hers. My purpose in the Terror Club will drastically decline. Of course, that's under the premise that she really is Admiral Stars. Yes, I have to adjust my focus from gathering news and resources and align it towards the church. This is something that she can supplement me. Alger thought with joy and worry, the sea god is really Mr. Fool. No, no, no. It should be said that the present sea god is Mr. Fool's manifestation. He has truly begun interfering with the real world. This is great. In the future, I can pray to the sea god directly and receive his response when I'm out traveling at sea. Audrey felt surprised, overjoyed, and proud. And I wonder if Klein would be able to pick that up. According to what she knew, the churches didn't do fixed ritualistic magic internally. The ones who received the responses by solely praying to the deities were mainly priests or a chance occurrences. Otherwise, they were blessed who were just numbered at a handful. As for receiving a response from every prayer, there would be an extreme exception, even among blessed. But Mr. Fool is returning to this throne, one step at a time, replacing Sea God in one of those steps. Audrey didn't hide the changes in her emotions as she smiled, sitting straight and elegantly. Kohanim, that's an elf name. I think I've heard someone mention it before. Emlyn attempted to recall, but it was in vain. Is it her birthday? Really? Really? Oh, that's cool. Wait, hold up. For me, it's still the 5th. So we don't get to celebrate her birthday until tomorrow. Well, at least on my end. For me, it's still the 5th, but that's cool. Nope. Ooh. Wow, tomorrow would unironically be the perfect time to do that Audrey cosplay, huh, guys? I guess you'll have to stick tuned and find out tomorrow if I got all my stuff in time. Still 3 hours until normal release? Oh, we'll see. I lost my place. As for Kawatua's and no. Why are we already getting lost already? Oh, no. No. Wait, hold up. I found my place. Ooh. Read LOTM until the preview releases, then do a live react. Yo, if it drops in the next 3 hours, you guys gotta let me know. As for Calvatua's death and how the sea god still replied to its believers, as well as the reason why the hermit, just as a hangman, had looked towards Mr. Fool, he had made a slight guess without thinking too deeply about the matter. What has this got to do with me? It doesn't affect my saving of Sanguen, nor is it anything of interest. Anyways, I just prayed to Mr. Fool if there's any problems. Emlyn mumbled to himself, showing disdain towards the emotional changes the other hand. Calamity, Queen of Calamity, but there are no records that say that her name is Kohanim. Derek turned his head to the left very slightly, a common tick he did when he recalled things. From the looks of it, Little Son isn't sure if Kohim is the Queen of Calamity, otherwise he wouldn't have such a reaction. Klein retracted his gaze in disappointment. He controlled the world to cough, pulling everyone back from their thoughts. Following that, the world conjured a picture with the Fool's help. He showed it to both sides of the table and asked, does anyone know her? It was a picture of red-haired Helene. Klein mainly wanted to know if Admiral Star, Lee, or the hangman Alger knew her. After all, they were well informed of the people out at sea. Alger glanced at it, and just as he was about to say he didn't know her, he heard Ma'am Hermit say with a deep voice, red-haired Helene, she's from a fallen noble family and has bloodline from the Sauron. Oh, okay, wait. Wait, Sauron family. Hold up. Brain blast. Wait, no, not brain blast. Let me see if I can recall lore. Sauron was one of the noble families that was involved in the War of the Four Emperors, and after the Dark Emperor fell, Sauron, Catlia, and the other two families, they split. Oh, no, they divided the kingdom. I think that's what I read today. So I think my memory's coming back. I'm slowly remembering these noble families. It's coming to me. Don't worry, guys. I'm starting to remember this. Yes. They are old royal families of Entis. Got it. And it mentioned in notes in volume 2, they were involved in that war. Sauron family is a family that assassinated Rizzo with the help of the one Rizzo over. Oh, got it. Thank you, guys. Okay. Well, at least in volume 2, there was one part where they said they were involved in the war, but I forgot about that part. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So when I post my notes, if there's anything I missed, you guys are gonna have to help back me up. Got it. All right. We're good. I'm around somewhere here. Cat Leah paused before adding, she was one of the traders out at sea, but she was later said to have been abducted by the Element Maiden Tracy. Oh my god, it's one of the rear admirals. Yeah. Admiral Tracy. Abducted by alien... Oh my, I forgot, I couldn't pronounce her name. Abducted by Ailment Maiden Tracy. I thought it would be some contrived story about a domineering pirate and a noble lady. However, Tracy can be considered a domineering pirate. Klein instantly made some connections. Forrest was still lost in her thoughts over the connection between Sea God and the Fool when she suddenly snapped to her senses. She accurately... Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so out of it. She actually noticed that the great opportunities lay in Red-Haired Helena and Vice Admiral Ailment stories as she began to daydream. To her regret, Madame Hermit had only said a few sentences without continuing. The Hermits know Vice Admiral Ailment, however, that doesn't imply anything. Beyonders of a certain sequence or knowledgeable people will know who the 7 pirate admirals are. Their bounty poachers are everywhere. The Hermit is rather aware of matters over the Entis. This is something that can be determined for now. The Hanged Man wasn't interested in Red-Haired Helene, only the Hermit's real identity. With Red-Haired Helene's matter coming to a close, Audrey began considering if she should consult the others about the Mind Dragon. Unlike before, there was no addition of Madame Hermit, who was unknown character and dubious allegiances. This left her hesitant. After a brief deliberation, she said, I recently sought out the traces of a Mind Dragon and went to a place which has a tradition of worshipping dragons. She had concealed the exact location, as that details might implicate her. Oh, domineering indeed. Ooh. I'm gonna need to see some fan art very soon. Mind Dragon what? What did I say? Mind Dragon and went to a place which has the tradition of worshipping dragons? Did I don't know if I mispronounced something. She had concealed the exact location as the details might implicate her. So she left out the part like going into the mind world. Got it. Chapter 571 is called Huge We have this chapter so coincidentally perfect for our current predicament. We have huge pressure to hit 600 before Wiz. So chapter 571 is called Huge Pressure. Audrey simply mentioned that the ancient folk song, but she didn't describe the content in detail. She was afraid that the knowledgeable Madame Hermit would be able to guess the exact location. She only mentioned the inspiration she had and how she used a psychological cue to retain her lucidity in her dream before beginning a magical journey. Psychological cue. She knows how to plan a psychological cue. She's likely a Sequence 7 psychiatrist. Damn, she's good. Sequence 7 psychiatrist Katlia habitually made a judgment, but she immediately felt even more perplexed. Then why would she mind the beyond characteristics of a psychiatrist? Taking the same potion, giving a limited increase in strength, while being prone to losing control. If only she knew she's trying to be a psychiatrist. Furthermore, it would be an obstacle towards the digestion of the potion to create a mystical item, but this will overlap with her own beyond powers. There's no value to that. To give it to someone... yeah. Zero pressure, guys. Don't worry. The new member's putting pressure on the rest of the territory. She's putting pressure on me now. To create a mystical item, but this will overlap with her own beyond her powers. There's no value to that. To give it to someone else. Amidst Katlia's guesses, Audrey had already mentioned her chaotic dream and how she came to the edge of her conscience. Then she used the conjuring method to learn from Mr. Fool to create a staircase that led downwards. She then slowly delved deep into her conscience. She didn't describe in details the various points of light that in her conscience, as it involved embarrassing secrets she still didn't wish to share. What? She focused on her lonely and long journey with no end in sight. She also expressed how there were various monsters hiding in the surrounding grayness that placed immense pressure on her. She mentioned how she nearly broke down several times and barely managed to endure it, thanks to her beyond her powers. Then she reached a point of her finally arriving in the illusionary sea of the collective subconscious, the memory imprints of her human pioneers and the spread of reflection of her consciousness of the surrounding creatures were presented under Audrey's coherent and unhurried description. Then it was fixed onto the dragon with grayish stone scales that had flown out from the sea of collective subconscious. There's a dragon that lives in the sea of collective so oh my god, we've been saying subconscious like every other word. Katlia. Yo, I'll be honest, I think I have a crush on Katlia. I looked at her artwork and I'm like, damn man, she is beautiful. Like, she is gorgeous. Don't tell the missus that, but I'm like, she is gorgeous, bro. The memory imprints of the human pioneers and the spread and reflection of the consciousness of the surrounding creatures were presented under Audrey's coherent and unhurried description. Then it was fixed onto the dragon with grayish stone scales that had flown out from the sea of the collective subconscious. There's a dragon that lives at the sea of collective subconscious. What a magical and beautiful journey. Although Miss Justice did encounter any enemies or danger, it still leaves me a little surreal. Four suddenly thought of the title of a book, Miss Justice's Dream Tour. While rounding things up, Audrey scanned the area and asked, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any suggestions? Do you think that the Dragon City of Miracles, Liv Sied, is also hidden in the sea of collective subconscious? If I wish to continue searching, what should I take note of? What advanced preparations do I need to take? The hangman Oliger glanced at the hermit and said in a serious tone, I don't think you should continue exploring. Damn. Nah, just a little bit. It's a very dangerous act. According to the records, most dragons and creatures with flesh and blood, this includes the mind dragon, by allowing itself to survive and swim through the so-called sea of collective subconscious. Wow, we've been saying subconscious, man, like a lot in this chapter. Subconscious, it means that the dragons you saw was a sufficiently high sequence. At the very least, it's at the level of a demigod. Before you reach sequence 5, it's best that you don't consider this. Katlia nodded and said, there are many other dangerous things in the sea of the collective subconscious. The accumulated, maleficent thought of humanity, the desires that can corrupt the soul bodies, the terrifying memories since ancient times that resembled storms and waves at sea, all of these will deal severe psychological harm to you. It might prevent you from ever waking up. Besides that, the sea of collective subconscious of all creatures, which isn't... This reminds me of Rem from ReZero. Prevent you from ever waking up. Besides the sea of the collective subconscious, all of the creatures, which isn't only limited to humans, there might be evil spirits, evil gods, or the consciousness of some terrifying existence hidden in there. There's like a gigantic maelstrom that can devour ships. Before you truly acquire beyond powers that allow you to travel through the sea of the collective subconscious, it's best not to rashly explore too deeply. Audrey, who was filled with expectations, felt disappointed. However, she couldn't help but admit that Mr. Hangman and Madame Hermit had spoken very logically and sincerely. She silently inhaled and said to herself, Audrey, don't be headstrong. Wait till you're sequence 5 before making an attempt again. She totally didn't consider how difficult it would be to become at sequence... How difficult it was to become a sequence 5. At the level one could even complete to become one of the 7 prior admirals, or even make the 7 become 8. Foreshadowing, maybe. From Audrey's point of view, with Mr. Fool in the Terror Club, as long as she was careful and calm, she would definitely be able to successfully attain the level in a year or two if she didn't take unnecessary risks. Only the gate to being a demigod was hard to push open. Ma'am Hermit knows a lot and is very knowledgeable. Audrey clung onto the last silver of hope and looked towards Mr. Fool at the end of the table, hoping that this godlike existence would provide a suggestion that was different for Mr. Hangman and Ma'am Hermit. Don't look at me. I have no idea. Klein tried his best to not blink. His understanding of the conscience, subconscious, and the collective subconscious was still stuck at a theoretical level that the spirit medium Dally had described. He didn't understand anything more. Despite having his dreams intrude frequently, he had never thought of exploring the world outside of the dreams despite retaining his lucidity. Therefore, how was he to provide any suggestions to Miss Justice? In fact, he had a natural idea regarding this. However, he wasn't sure if it would work without having done any verification. In the past, even if he lacked the confidence, he could vaguely make a comment. By now, with Admiral Stars Katlia sitting at the side watching it, only made it easier for him to make mistakes the more he spoke. The less he spoke, the fewer mistakes he would commit, and there was no chance of making mistakes by keeping silent. What a pressure-inducing new member. Damn, she's putting pressure on everybody. What a pressure-inducing new member. Klein sighed inwardly. He didn't say a word and maintained his faint smile. If not for him being above the gray fog and how he existed in the form of the spirit body, he suspected that such highly difficult acting would make the muscles around his eyes spasm. Mr. Fool doesn't have any suggestions. Audrey retracted her gaze in depression. She's like, shit, man, nothing? Like, you got nothing for me, bro? Oh, my goodness. I fucking lost my place. She casted her gaze in depression. Oh my god. Bro, my eyes are going everywhere. I'm like, my eyes are twitching out on me today. She stopped fantasizing about exploring the sea of the collective subconscious so soon. At this moment, the moon Emlyn, who was already turning impatient, cleared his throat. I've seriously researched the history handed down by us Sanguine. Sanguine, he really is a vampire. Nurturing vampires and pulling vampires into the church is a really tradition of the Church of the Earth Mother. Katlia nodded as she looked like she was listening seriously. Meanwhile, she felt that some of her conclusions needed adjustments. The moon directly expressed his identity. Does this mean that Mr. Fool has a potent deterrence, even in the outside world, that the members aren't afraid of information being leaked? It seems like I don't have to completely hide my circumstances. Emlyn paused and looked at the sun before tipping his chin. Before the cataclysm, there was no city of silver, only the kingdom of silver. What? Is that new? That's new lore, right? Didn't I say there would be like a kingdom of gold, but it was called kingdom of silver? Oh, wait. Oh, it clicked. It finally clicked why it's called a city of silver. The kingdom of silver. It was a true creator city. You remember he had like long bronze silver. Wait, no, he had long silver hair reaching the back of his head. That's why it's called that. The way I just realized why it's called City of Silver. It was a city of the ancient sun god, the true. Wait, the omniscient, omnipotent god, because his hair, he had long silver hair. That's why it's called City. So it literally finally clicked. It took 500 chapters, but it finally clicked. It finally clicked. That's why it's called City of Silver. Bruh, silver hair was orb. No, shut the fuck up, man. Really? Nah, don't do this to me. No. In the anime trailer, in the Dunqua trailer, when it showed, hold up, I don't know who it is because we know. I assume there was a true creator in the trailer. He had silver hair. Shit, maybe. This was what's said in 568. Damn. Really? All right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was tripping out. All right, meanwhile, let's keep reading. Before the cataclysm, there was no city of silver, only the kingdom of silver. If it were anyone else who had thrown such doubt on him, Derek would have hastened to retort, expressing the fact that the people of the city of silver were descendants of the kingdom of the silver, and that he hadn't lied. However, after glancing at Mr. Moon and sensing his smugness, Derek turned his head to the side, feeling that an explanation was beneath him. Why must I let an arrogant vampire who doesn't acknowledge the city of silver's history believe me? He thought, damn, they got beef, bro. He thought silently to himself. From his reaction, Emlyn couldn't tell that the City of Silver was indeed related to the Kingdom of Silver. He tissed and said the faith of the Kingdom of Silver wasn't originally Giant King Armir, but his Queen Omebella. Omebella, Derek turned his head and blurted out, our City of Silver has no records of this matter, nor are there any records of a queen named Omebella. Whoa, I'm sensing a cover-up. Emlyn chuckled and spread out his hands. Fucking Emlyn, dude. He's literally talking shit to a kid. This is so funny. Emlyn is so like, oh, dude, he has such protagonist energy, bro. He's like, this little kid. He's like, he's just trying to rub it in. That is so mean. He's like, Emlyn chuckled and spread out his hands. Oh, wow, that's actually kind of funny. The sun versus the moon. Oh my god, I can see them having beef this whole series because one is the sun and one is the moon. All right, so they're like, all right, that's kind of funny. That's kind of fitting. Emlyn chuckled and spread out his hands. That's why there's nothing wrong with me saying that your City of Silver's history is flawed and incomplete, right? Clearly there are mistakes in your records of Sanguine history. You took such a roundabout way to prove this. Should I say that as Emlyn, dude. Should I say that a vampire like you has clear logic or that you're someone who bears grudges? Klein held back his laughter and stopped himself from sizing up Emlyn White. This is such a funny interaction. The moon and the sun's debate benefited him greatly, allowing him to know that the giant queen, the goddess of harvest, was named Amabella. The son, Derek, was just about to give a retort to Mr. Moon when he heard Ma'am Hermit speak. Amabella is the goddess of harvest from the second epoch. Oh my god, more lore. She's also the queen of the giant king of courts, and giant king Amir was part of the king of courts, okay? Legend has it that she perished at the end of the second epoch, but it's impossible to verify since no one has seen her corpse or relics. The goddess of harvest is really named Amabella. Derek was stunned. He wishes to retort, but he was unable to say a word at this matter proved that the history of the City of Silver had several holes. He instantly felt somewhat aggravated. When Emlyn saw this, he felt good. Pleasure rose from the depths of his heart. He's like, take that, Derek. Oh, shit, dude. After another round of exchanges, the entire gathering came to an end. Oh, wait, this is actually a funny gathering meeting, dude. After another round of exchanges, the entire gathering came to an end. Klein smiled and said, everyone, we shall meet next week. By your will, Audrey immediately got up to bow. The others weren't any slower, including the hermit Katlia. Upon returning to reality, Admiral Star's Katlia looked at the shattered celestial globe on her desk. She then seriously recalled what had happened at the gathering. After a few details made her believe that the Terror Club involved itself in many matters that made it nothing to scoff at. And hidden deep in the gray fog was Mr. Fool, like the world, who was hidden behind thick shadows. He was unreadable and unfathomable. It was unknown what he was planning. He's just trying to go home, man. After more than 10 seconds of silence, Katlia retrieved a pen and some paper and wrote while deliberating. Someone has been deliberately collecting the Emperor Diary pages. She didn't dare to expose any information that involved the Terror Club, and she was afraid of being punished by Mr. Fool. All she could do was give a heads up on things that could be discovered under ordinary circumstances. After she was done writing and folded the letter, she took out a golden, exquisite harmonica she carried with her. Putting it in her lips, she blew it. In the blink of an eye, she saw the letter strangely vanish. That's a really cool messenger. Wait, what? In the blink of an eye, she saw the letter vanish. Look at that. It just vanished just like that. Even though she wasn't wearing her glasses, she was unable to discover the arrival of the messenger. Phew, Katlia signed and reached for her forehead and said silently, the pressure is really huge when participating in a gathering while under the supervision of a god. With Admiral Star joining, the pressure of me as a fool has greatly increased. Klein rubbed his temples above the gray fog and directly returned to the real world. He wanted to attempt the inspiration Miss Justice had received from exploring her dreams. That was a good chapter. All right, next chapter, 572. Next chapter, chapter 570 who? Chapter 572 is called Recite My Name. As a series of chores, Klein opened his locked bedroom door and looked into the living room. He saw the knit sleeping soundly on a reclining chair. Although he had long heard it, Klein couldn't help but lampoon. It's not even 4 in the afternoon. Has this guy completely let his hair down now that he doesn't need to monitor the radio transceiver? With a thought, he gradually smiled, feeling that this was exactly what he needed. The premise of him maintaining his lucidity in the dreams had involved someone invading his consciousness. Typically, his dreams were a turbid mess, which meant that he alone wasn't able to complete the experiment. After all, he couldn't plant a psychological cue on himself. Therefore, he planned on using the external forces to enter the dreams of others. This way, he could maintain his lucidity like a nightmare. He originally planned on heading out to find a suitable target, but the knit's posture was in such a perfect state that he could hardly stop himself from kicking him. No, I should be experimenting, Klein corrected his thoughts. He contemplated for a moment, and he didn't use a dream charm. As a Sequence 7 pyromaniac with the ancient name being Fire Mage, the knit's sparrow perception wasn't to be written off. Once he softly chanted an incantation and he could stir the powers of nature, the knits would definitely be awoken. Huh. Okay. As such, it would be a question of whether he could evade the matter in a timely manner. The opposite. After some deliberation, Klein took out another thing he had prepared. It was a gem-like object that seemed dark and deep. It was a bionic characteristic left behind by the nightmare. It could be used to a certain... Let me put the volume down for you guys. It could be used to a certain extent, just like the Marionettist Rosago's all-black eye. However, the effects were inferior to one that was from a mystical item. For example, this nightmare bionic characteristic didn't allow Klein to pass through the dreams of someone across the city from the inn's suit, nor was he able to forcibly pull open into the dream. However, it was still simple enough to perform the most basic of intruding into someone's dreams at a close distance. Klein held the dark gem and spread out his spirituality. The illusionary darkness rapidly spread before his eyes, filling his vision. Everything before his eyes were blanketed over, including the knits. There was no longer a humanoid figure, but an if a what? Eleficiodo blob of light. I've never have spelled this word in my life.
There was no longer a humanoid figure but an ellipsoidal blob.
Ellipsoidal blob of light. Klein immediately extended, like an ellipse. Klein immediately extended his spirituality out and made contact with it. Without any warning, various signs flooded his surroundings as he flashed rapidly. Finally, it came to a stop on a ship that was dozens of meters long. It had a smoke-churning chimney and large sails that were fully raised. The deck was polished abnormally bright, shimmering with the glimmer of a gold coin when sunlight hit it. Denit stood under the main cannon. He had his arms crossed. He was leisurely rushing forward sailors, shouting from time to time, "Scrub the area again. Dogshit, do you wish to copy down the ancient Phasic dictionary?" This fellow is quite impressive on the Golden Dream. Klein ignored the owner of the dream and flew to the other end of the ship. He found a hidden spot and landed on the deck before preparing to test his spiritual perception. I can see him like having a dinner date with Katlia, man. That'd be kind of funny. And then Dennis said, "What are you doing in my dream? Get out, bro!" What he planned on experimenting on was simple. He wanted to know if chanting the fool's honorific name in a dream was effective. He wanted to know if he could sense someone praying. This way, Miss Justice encounters danger in the sea of collective subconscious. She can use this method to seek help. After stretching his back, Klein expression gradually turned solemn as he softly said, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the great fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck." Well, I feel like you would. Like, the mind world is just like any other world, right? With the words in Hermes being spoken, he very quickly finished reciting the fool's honorific name. However, Klein didn't hear the series of illusory pleas. Oh, it doesn't work. Klein frowned in his thought. He analyzed whether it was really impossible or if he had made a mistake somewhere. Yes, chanting in my dream doesn't actually produce any noise. Oh, relying on Hermes alone isn't sufficient. To achieve the effects of praying, I'll have to use a language like ancient Hermes that can stir the powers of nature. This is the same state as me copying the account password of my anonymous account. Klein nodded slightly and began to chant his honorific name in ancient Hermes. He was afraid that there would be an accident, but that his stirring of the powers of nature would wake blazing Denitz from his sleep. Oh, GERHMAN stealing his crush in his own dream broke my... Yeah, I think you know what? I think he might actually cry. Damn, if that happens, that's actually going to break my heart. He recited each word, quickly finished the 3 sentences. Following that, Klein heard the stacked series of irritable and illusory pleas. At that moment, Denit's dream quivered as the golden dream quickly disintegrated. Klein didn't stay any longer and immediately left. He's like, "I'm out." He returned back to his bedroom before Dennis woke up. After 7 to 8 seconds, Dennis sat up in a daze as he muttered to himself in fear. Why did I dream of the madman GERHMAN Sparrow causing trouble on the Golden Dream? What a terrifying manner. Dog shit. It must be the result of me worrying over this matter all the time. Inside the bedroom, Klein had already taken 4 steps counterclockwise and gone above the gray fog. Without any surprises, he saw a rippling light by the fool's high back chair. It was in the scene of him in a dream. Okay, so it works. It really works. One can still receive a response from chanting when chanting the fool's honorific name in the languages such as ancient Hermes or Jotun. It's no wonder some people might suddenly die in their sleep despite not doing a thing. They might be reading some materials or had memorized certain symbols in a day and accidentally replicated them in their dream. The danger in the world really cannot be prevented. Really? You can die just by dreaming shit on accident like that? Damn. Klein dispelled the rippling light and considered if he should inform Mistress of the results of the experiment. To only inform her later instead of saying it on the spot is a little damaging to the fool's image. But Mistress is the kind of girl with a huge sense of curiosity. Although she has been warned by Mr. Hangman and Admiral Stars, and even if she's a little more mature, now there's still the chance of her taking risks. Of course, if anything were to happen, it's on herself and it has nothing to do with me. Klein couldn't help but recall Mistress's adoration of the fool and thought of her optimism and cheerfulness that brought him happiness, as well as contributions towards the Terror Club and all this time. Finally, he sat and said in a self-deprecating manner, "I still need to inform her and give a warning. This is a treatment a VIP gets." After the decision, Klein didn't hesitate to spread out his spirituality and touch the Crimson Star representing Miss Justice. Bro accidentally remembered something in a dream and dies. Yeah, it's kind of wild, man. Klein's favorite? He literally just called her VIP guest. All right. I guess he would call Olger and Audrey like their VIPs, right? Because they were the first. In a room of the huge manor in East Chester County, Audrey had her legs leaning sideways as she sat before her dressing table. She was recalling the words Mr. Hangman and Ma'am Hermit had said. After being warned by 2 senior beyonders, she suddenly realized something. It wasn't that the mid and upper echelons of psychology alchemists wasn't aware that one could explore their dreams, the icy mountain of subconscious and the seas of collective subconscious by using a self-inducing psychological cue. The reason why they didn't tell me anything is because it's too dangerous for a psychiatrist. Many people have already died in such explorations, but they should warn me. Alright, from their point of view, I'm only a sequence 8 telepathist. I'm not equipped with the powers of psychological cue, so there was no need to warn me. Audrey finally understood the perplexing matter. Just as she was about to let Susie enter the room to calm the disappointment in her heart, she suddenly saw the thick gray fog instantly flooding her vision. Everyone is feeling a little bit like a traveler this volume, you know, if I might add, you know. It's a little bit. In the middle of the endless grayish white, a figure sat in the high back chair, looking down at her, it said, "Do not make attempts without careful consideration." Before Audrey realized what was happening, she heard the deep and majestic voice sound out again. "If you encounter dangers in your dreams, you can recite my name." Recite your name. Audrey's eyes widened as she became overjoyed. "Yes, Mr. Fool." Seeing that Miss Justice was excited, instead of showing any doubts, Klein secretly heaved a sigh of relief and chuckled. "Use ancient Hermes." With that said, his figure faded away and the gray fog vanished. Audrey sat there stunned for 2 seconds before hurriedly pursing her lips, afraid that she wasn't on her best behavior. Mr. Fool actually specially warned me. He even permitted me to recite his name in my dream. Audrey excitedly took a few steps on the spot, believing that she had really become a blessed of God. Of course, she also remembered Mr. Fool's warning. She planned to understand more from the psychological alchemists and make another attempt only when she was sufficiently prepared. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and she randomly tapped her chest, saying silently, "May Mr. Fool watch over me." I don't know, that's a red flag. That's not a death flag, right? Oh, I'm thinking out loud. Don't even answer that. Hold up. Sorry, thinking out loud. Above the gray fog, Klein began to consider another matter. Red-haired Helene, who had a reward worth £1,000, was actually related to Vice Admiral Element Tracy. Wow, I said it perfect that time. Tracy took over Quillingus' crew. I forgot about that part. Tracy took over Quillingus' crew and changed his flagship to the Black Death. As for Quillingus, he previously plundered a tycoon named Jimmy Necker. The tycoon had previously obtained parts of Death's Chronicles. It came from a Balam royal family's mausoleum. This information came from the nightmare inside Creeping Hunger. It should benefit Mr. Zig to a certain extent. I can also investigate the matter in passing. Klein found another reason to look forward to finding the red-haired Helene. So we're like out there finding shanks at sea. Well, female shanks. He originally planned on using the magic mirror or roads to find her, but now he planned to mobilize Sea God believers to perform research. In the past, it's quite demanding to send a revelation for just £1,000, but now that it involves a pirate admiral, it could barely make people guess that there are secret motives behind it. Klein conjured red-haired Helene's photo and summoned the Sea God scepter. He had never done a mass revelation, so it was possible that it would be a burden that he couldn't withstand. He chose higher-ups like Kalat and Edmonton, with waves reaching high in the sky. As a background, he said in a deep voice, "Find her and protect her. Be careful of Tracy's forces." He didn't provide further explanations as he broke down the scene along with the red-haired Helene's photo into many sets before projecting them into the corresponding dots of light. That was the end of the chapter. All right. Chapter 573. Perfect. All right. Chapter 573 is called Teaching a Lesson in Reality. In a forest in Blue Mountain Island where the resistance base was located, sitting in a wheelchair, Kalat raised his bald head. Why does he have to point that out, man? Like, I'm sorry. Like, is that a bad description? Like, come on, man. He looks beautiful. Like, cut him some slack. Cut Kalat some slack, brother. Sitting in a wheelchair, Kalat raised his bald head and looked I'm joking, I'm sorry. He raised his bald head and looked towards the sunlight that was scattering at the cave's entrance. His eyes couldn't hide his joy. He acutely sensed that ever since God reappeared over the land and stated his 10 commandments, the previous bloodshed and chaos had changed. From time to time, he would provide them with guidance which was filled with wisdom. Furthermore, he would obscure all creatures and proactively interfere with the situation in the Sea God in a bid to help the resistance and everyone in the Rorstead, allowing them to pass through a different thorny. I was about to read the wrong thing. It says thorny. Classic cuttlefish. We're discriminating against bald. Thorny thorny path while still being able to see some hope. Perhaps this is a true meaning behind his reappearance over the land. Kalat recalled the revelation he had just received and guessed that the red-haired woman named Helene was like a fulcrum from Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy and the forces out at sea. She was a key to spoiling the balance between the countries, and only by making the world's situation more chaotic will the people of the Rorsted receive the opportunity of being liberated. Kalat drew in a breath and quickly set up a ritual to pray to the sea god, conjuring Helene's pictures. Ain't no way. Misreading Florian just a little bit. Yeah, rise up, my brothers and sisters. We shall resist the cuttlefish hatred. All right, living in that direction was a high priest of the Church of the Sea Gods, a priest who was a high-ranking member of the Resistance. Although they don't dare go against the revelations and have made tremendous changes in many ways, they're still immersed in the past. They're opposite. They are obstinate, conservative, backward, and I scroll down too much, and savage. They refuse to embrace a more civilized church. If this goes on, they'll one day be abandoned by God. Kalat couldn't hide the smile in his heart while he felt a strong sense of anguish. After scanning through all the believers' prayings and picking out a few to respond to, Klein returned to the real world. He planned on heading out to search for a chance to enact true acting. When his right hand gripped the door handle, ridiculous but possible thought came to his mind. My true goal is not to find the red-haired Helene, but to use the opportunity to get Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy and figure out what happened to the tycoon Jimmy Necker, so as to get to know the location of the ancient chronicles of death. That is to say, I only need to lure Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy out with a red hair Helene. As for whether she's the reason oh my god, I'm reading it wrong. As for whether she's a real person or not, that doesn't matter. I can make myself red-haired Helene. I can make myself red what? I can make myself red. Oh, faceless, duh. I can make myself red-haired Helene and let the Nits send me to the strongman Uzo, get the reward, and easily meet Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy. What an impressive sequence of actions. Clyde suddenly shook his head and found a reason to reject the idea. Although I'm a faceless, I can't accept wearing drag. Could it be that overcoming my inner resistance is also one of the principles of acting? Oh, this is an obstacle he must overcome. Furthermore, I don't know red-hair Helene. Acting as her wouldn't work. I would just be like her on the surface, and I wouldn't be able to fool people who are familiar with her. The way I won't be able to meet Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy. Yes, the person searching for sorry, I have to yell. The person searching for red-hair Helene might not be Tracy, but an enemy of hers. I don't know Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy's background. Rashly doing such an act would result in immeasurable danger. It's best to be safe and abide by my wishes. I'll first search for the red-haired Helene, and after determining the details, I can consider the subsequent actions. At that moment, Klein suddenly felt that something was amiss in the living room. The Nit snoring had softened, and the time between each snore shortened. Vice Admiral Iceberg is here. Klein turned the handle and opened the door to the bedroom. While making the silent action, the Nit sat up with his eyes open. He tried hard to hide his smile and said, "Captain came. She said that Admiral Blood's cruise was sighted at the Longtail Island, and continuing south, his destination seems to be the Berserk Sea. The source of news is trustworthy. Longtail Island." Okay, it's a new island. I think Klein's gonna have to pull off a Mr. A if he wants to act, right? Longtail Island, the island of the southern end of the Rorsted Sea. From the looks of it, Admiral Blood previously planned on coming to Bayonne, but the fight between Calvatua and the sea god John Coatman scared him away. He circled around the area and headed straight to the Berserk Sea. Yes, this is probably because his intelligence officer, Old Quinn, didn't send a telegram to inform him. Klein felt pangs of regret and could only lament how reality changed faster than his plans. He had planned to make his hunt of Admiral Blood become the crowning battle of crazy adventures and bounty hunter GERHMAN SPARROW. Killing of a single steel Maveti ultimately lacks what? It ultimately lacks that shock and awe effect. Klein didn't say a word, and he calmly looked at the Nits. The Nits felt a little uneasy for the intent stare, and he gave a hollow chuckle. Admiral of Blood has fled. Your cooperation with the captain has come to an end, right? I can now return to the Golden Dream, right? Further developments can be done via your messenger. Klein pondered for a moment and took out a piece of paper from his pocket. He scribbled the method to summon his messenger. Following that, he flicked his wrist, sending the piece of paper out like a metallic plate. The Nits was a hunter at sequence 9, so he He's a hunt. Oh, he's hunt. Technically, yes, he's a hunter at sequence 9. I thought like he's sequence 900. Like, no, he's not. So he easily reached out and caught the piece of paper. He scanned it before a scarlet flame rose in his palms, burning the papers to ashes. Huh. Even if I forget it, Captain will have a way of making me recall it. He paused and squeezed out the spoil before asking, I can now return to the golden dream, right? Klein nodded slightly and said, yes, I can. The Nitz held back his urge to pump his fist in celebration. After that, he would end up antagonizing the madman GERHMAN Sparrow. He smiled cautiously and said, I'll first pay off the room for this period of time and buy a ship ticket. As you know, Bayham hadn't been calm recently. Captain doesn't wish for the golden dream to dock at the harbor here. At least you know how to settle the room payment. Klein didn't say a word as he maintained his austere attitude. He draped himself with a coat and took his hat before walking towards the luxury suite. When his back disappeared in the corner of the staircase and vanished from Dinit's sight, Dinit shrank back into his room and clenched his fists, pumping them into the air. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm finally free. I don't know. He didn't delay in wearing his cap and heading to the front desk of the Wind of the Azure and to settle the bill. He informed them that this didn't mean that he was checking out. The Nitz quickly hit the streets and ran straight for a place known as the Seaweed Bar. He found the air fresh and invigorating. After he took a few steps, he suddenly noticed the bounty posters passed along the walls around a band, blazing the Nitz 5,500 pounds. The posters were just 2 steps away from the Nitz. The familiar face allowed for a clear comparison with his cap-wearing face. He's like, they're gonna notice. So they're gonna notice him right away. The Nitz clenched his teeth and revealed a sorrowful smile. He hurriedly pressed down his cap, nearly concealing his normal line of sight. But even so, he still felt uneasy. He went to a recent department store and bought a gray scarf. He wrapped it around his neck and hid his nose and mouth in it. What a beautiful disguise. At this point in time, the Nitz relaxed somewhat as he sped up his pace and rushed for the destination. The Seaweed Bar was a place where gangs gathered. It was common for infamous pirates to appear here. Although this place wasn't like the Swordfish Bar or Amiris Leaf Bar that allowed access to a lot of information resources, it had its own unique niche. It had many resourceful secret channels. What the Nitz wanted to do was buy a scalped ticket to Galagos, and this wouldn't need him to provide any identification. He knew very well that, be it in the past or the present, his bounty poster would be plastered across all ticket booths. He had bought the first-class ticket to the Wider Gate via the same method as well. After entering the bar, the Nitz didn't take off his hat and scarf. He carefully surveyed the area and found Daniel, who had sold scalped tickets. Damn. He didn't directly approach him and instead retracted his gaze from the thin and somewhat swarthy man who was in his 30s. He began searching for someone unfamiliar. After a round of choice, the Nitz squeezed through the crowd and arrived beside a lad who was drinking at the bar counter. He tapped him on the shoulder and suppressed his voice. Do me a favor. What? The lad turned his head wordly and ended up seeing a suspicious man. The lower half of his face was covered in the gray scarf and cap, and his head nearly hid his eyes. He revealed almost nothing about his face. Such a dress-up simply meant that he was suspicious. He's definitely sus. This was because the Rochard Archipelago's lowest temperature during the winter was about 10 degrees Celsius. The Nitz pointed at Daniel. See that guy over there? Buy me a ticket for Galagos tomorrow. He handed over 3 1-pound notes and chuckled. The rest is yours. Although a scalp ticket was much more expensive than a retail ticket, Galagos wasn't too far, making 3 pounds more than sufficient. Of course, this was also because the journey was relatively shorter, and there was no need for him to buy a first-class ticket. The reason why the Nitz didn't buy it himself was because he was worried that Daniel would recognize him, bringing him unwanted attention. Back when his bounty was only 3,000 pounds, pirates and adventurers at this level or lower had to consider how many people were needed to take him down. Sorry. The bounty received wasn't something that could make them forget about their fear towards Vice Admiral Iceberg and the risk of losing their lives. Hence, very few people would take the initiative to attack him. As such, his safety was pretty much guaranteed in such a black market. But now his bounty reward had already reached 5,500 pounds. Even if several people joined forces, the amount of money each of them could get was a sizable sum. Furthermore, there were many people out at sea who were desperados. Apart from that, there were Sorry, I'm reading wrong. Easy, need the sleepiness potion. Yo, how do you know, man? I'm gonna get some G Fuel right now after this. Apart from that, there would be people who found their own bounties too low and wished to prove the strength. These people would definitely challenge a target like Danitz, who was infamous but was of little risk. It was precisely because of this that Danitz was afraid that Daniil would betray him. Literally, that's why he's going to betray him. Therefore, he hired a random person to buy it on his behalf. The lad held the cash and gave Danitz another look before getting up from his seat. He then walked towards Daniil. He deliberately slowed down his footsteps when he walked past some drunkards as he whispered to them. When Danitz saw this scene, he suddenly became guarded. He thought of a problem with him acting suspiciously. It was very obvious that there was a problem with him. He was a perfect target for being betrayed. Hey, do you think my reputation as blazing? Do you think my reputation as blazing was bought? Danitz planned on teaching the lad a lesson after he obtained the ticket. At this point, he discovered that a familiar figure had walked in. He was an infamous pirate, blue eye. I'm so sorry. It was a blue pirate Meef with a bounty of 2,000 injured pounds, and this pirate clearly knew this group of people were planning to betray him. Blue Eye Meef still had a few rather powerful subordinates. Danitz didn't hesitate to get up and head for the bar's back door. His speed increased and he agilely forced himself through the drunkards and escaped from the bar. Then, with his rich anti-tracking skills, he completely escaped from the group of people. Danitz didn't dare to stay on the street since it was already dark. The patrolling police and soldiers would begin increasing. He went straight to the back of the Windsor Inn and opened the door to the luxury suite. Inside, he saw GERHMAN Sparrow admiring the dusk. Oh, okay. Like the new Dusk Blood game that's going to come out on the Switch too. Danitz had a thought as he forced a smile. There's something I forgot to mention it just now. Captain wishes to ask if you have any interest in meeting her at Galagos. Of course. This was a question he had previously kept secret. He had planned on returning and telling his captain that GERHMAN Sparrow wasn't interested, but now he realized that he has a low chance of surviving in Bayam once he was separated from the crazy adventurer. Damn. So he's like, you want to come through? All right, let's read the next chapter. But before we read the next chapter, let me go get some G Fuel. And now I wake up. Sponsored, not sponsored. Chapter 574 is called Fail to Accomplish. Head to Galagos to meet Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina Edwards. Klein was taken aback, nearly frowning in the process. This wasn't something he considered unacceptable, but instead a chance for him to use his face-to-face meeting to ask about the matters with trite details that were cumbersome to pen down. It was possible for him to be inspired and gain information for his subsequent advancement in high-sequence potion formulas. One more friend, one more channel. Klein silently muttered this sentence before taking out a heavy gold coin. He divined if there were any danger in front of Blazing Danitz. The shiny gold coin flipped in the air and tumbled down into Klein's palm. Tails facing up, this implies a negative response, which meant that there wasn't much danger meeting Vice Admiral Iceberg, Edwina, and Galagos. Klein shifted his gaze upwards at Danitz and calmly said, "Okay, on the captain's behalf, I thank you for accepting the invitation." Danitz heaved a sigh of relief and beamed his brows of easing. Klein, oh my god, I'm reading wrong. Klein took a look at the wall and said, "I'll first head to the washroom." Head to the washroom? You mean you plan on heading on later to buy a ticket for me? Danitz's gaze followed GERHMAN Sparrow's body as he sharply read in between the lines. After using spirit dowsing to confirm that above the gray fog, Klein washed his hands and left the washroom and said to Danitz, "Let's go." You're heading out, Romero? No, it's okay, dude. Thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit, man. Take care, dude. We'll have the VOD up as quickly as we can. Danitz pointed at himself. Klein put on his coat and nodded. There's no need to, right? You can directly find Ellen and get him to help us buy 2 tickets. On the rare occasion, Danitz sincerely provided a suggestion. Klein coldly swept his glance across him and didn't say a word. He wore his hat and went out the door. Danitz trembled and swallowed his second suggestion of buying fake identification documents and used GERHMAN Sparrow's ability to change appearances to buy 2 tickets via official channels. He wrapped a scarf around him once again and pressed down on his cap before quickly following GERHMAN Sparrow. After nearly 22 minutes, Klein pointed ahead where there was a noisy communication. It is there. Is it there? There was a seaweed bar where Danitz had failed to accomplish the purchase of a scalp ticket. Yes, Danitz never expected them to circle over and was momentarily stunned. Along the way, he had roughly described his early experiences, therefore he wasn't sure why GERHMAN Sparrow wouldn't return here. Amid his thought, he suddenly had a guess as he blurted out, "Are you going to seek revenge for me?" "Oh. This fellow might be crazy, but he's quite nice to be friends. He acts on venturing out into Banshee Harbor for Ellen and the others is an example." The Nitz couldn't help but reflect on the matter. Klein shot him a glance and didn't say a word. Look, here, this MF the Nitz bring He's like, I got my big bro. Give me my damn ticket. The Nits couldn't help but reflect on the matter. Klein shot him a glance and didn't say a word. That's so funny. Literally, the Nits is giving off little bro energy and GERHMAN is giving off big bro energy. Klein shot a glance at Klein and didn't wait. Klein shot a glance and didn't say a word. He widened his strides and walked into the seaweed bar. There's really no need. The Nits frowned behind as he weakly persuaded him. To him, if he wasn't afraid of escalating the matter, he would have baked those bunch of backstabbing bastards in cements and sank them to the bottom of the sea. The bar was noisy and lively, with local music reverberating through it, bringing about a trance-like feeling. The Nits seriously surveyed the area in an attempt to find the bunch of backstabbers as well as the information pirate Blue Eyes Meef. Okay, wrong pronunciation. That's Daniel. The Nits casually introduced the black market merchant. What a pity that this place is just too chaotic. I have no idea if that group of people are still around, he thought with some regret. Klein traces his gaze and thought creeping hunger with his right hand and touched creeping hunger with his right hand. He turned his head and looked at the Nits, saying with his usual expression, "Take off your scarf." Klein shot a glance at Klein. Yeah, my bad. Take off your scarf. Yo, dude, he's using him as bait. His tone was akin to instructing the Nits to buy a glass of beer. The Nits was left stunned on the spot as he wondered if he had heard wrong. They're like, bro, you're here to back me up. Klein widened the ends of his mouth and said, "Take off your scarf. Do not make me repeat thrice." Shit, dude. Why? Why? The Nits choked back his question under the icy cold and crazy stare. He blankly removed his scar in puzzlement, and he had a baffling feeling that the people around him were sizing him up and also recognized him as the great pirate worth 5,500 pounds blazing the Nits. Klein maintained his smile and concealed madness and continued instructing, "Take off your cap." Oh my god. Damn. Go over and buy me a drink. Damn. In an instant, the Nits felt as though he had been struck by lightning. He nearly leaped up. I'll be recognized. He's like, go buy me the drink. Klein's like, don't make me repeat it, bro. He's like, I got your back. Under GERHMAN Sparrow's stare, his voice became softer and softer. At this point in time, he had already understood what GERHMAN Sparrow was up to. He wishes to use my worthless 5,500 pounds as bait to fish out the greedy pirates and pirate houses behind those gangs. Dog shit to think I thought he was nice to his friends a moment ago. No, why would I even consider him my friend? This son of a bitch. What do you mean he saved your life, bro? The Nits kept cursing inwardly with vulgarities. He couldn't put up any resistance since He couldn't put up any resistance since he knew how crazy GERHMAN Sparrow was. This was a madman who was even thinking of hunting a pirate admiral. The Nits revealed a twisting smile as he slowly turned his head back. He took off his hat and slowly walked towards Daniel. Around him, gazes swept past him and paused for 2 seconds before they were retraced. As the drunkards moved away from him like the receding tides, they opened a wide path for him as though the ocean was split. Shit, dude, this is funny. Dude, I love their interactions, man. It's so funny. Upon seeing this reaction, the Nits was surprised at the turn of events, despite his horror and concerns. This is the might of a great pirate. This is what feels like to be the center of attention. Damn it! I heard someone say my name. Someone is whispering, blazing. The Nits knew he had been recognized. As he walked forward anxiously, he hung his hands down and prepared to do battle. Among the crowd, Blue Eyes Meath blurted out, "The Nits, blazing the Nits." His subordinates exchanged looks and said excitedly, "Boss, it's really blazing the Nits, 5,500 pounds. Shall we attack?" Meath narrowed his azure blue eyes and raised his left arm, slapping the back of his subordinates' heads. "You stupid ass. If blazing the Nits were a stupid ass like you, he would have been killed numerous times. He dared to appear here because he's not afraid of being attacked. He has a powerhouse hiding behind him." Meath suddenly felt horrified as he looked around. He suspected that Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina Edwards had secretly arrived in the city of Generosity Bayam. Through the gaps in between the crowd, he saw a young gentleman in a black double-breasted frock coat. He wore a half-top hat. Damn, they're scared of him, dude. And had black hair and brown eyes. He looked thin, but he had an angled face. He's like, bro, you're gonna die. Like, do not fight him. Without any words, Meath's spiritual perception told him that this was a terrifying existence. His high spiritual perception had previously brought him numerous troubles, but it also had helped him successfully evade even more dangers. Let's go. He suppressed his voice as he ordered. Then, with the help of the patrons blocking him, he fled from the bar's back door, just like how Denitz did previously. Denitz came right in front of Daniil while he's shuddering in fear before buying 2 tickets to the Galagos from a blank and horrified opponent. Even after he returned away, he came and he received the signal from GERHMAN SPARROW to walk out the bar. He didn't notice anyone suddenly assaulting him. Isn't it said that there are many desperados among pirates? Indeed, a last-minute rush trap is hardly effective. Something abnormal usually implies that something is amiss. Of course, one can use the abnormality to scare the enemy. Unfortunately, Klein pressed down on his hat before following Denitz out. At that moment in time, Denitz was loitering around a street lamp. When he saw GERHMAN SPARROW walk out, he barely smiled and said, "Can I wear the scarf and cap already?" That group of cowards. He was waiting for a scuffle, right? Yes, Klein didn't stop as he sped up once again. He reached the other end of the street. The Knit's pupils contracted as he hurriedly chased him after as he inquired, "Why are we suddenly running?" Klein didn't turn his head and calmly said, "Do you wish to stay here to be invited back by the mandated preachers?" As he spoke, he took out a paper figurine, threw it out, and burned it to ashes. Only then did Nitz snap to his senses. Although the groups of cowards didn't dare to attack him, they definitely had the courage to report him. If he was successfully taken down, they still had a chance of receiving parts of the reward. They ran all the way into the secluded alley before GERHMAN SPARROW stopped. Only then did the Nitz have the time to wrap his scarf properly and wear his cap. "Where are we heading now?" the Nitz asked with a slight pant. Klein glanced at him, fine Elend. The corners of the Nitz's mouth twitched, yearning to throw a farby over. To buy tickets to the Dillenius Island, Klein added as he passed through the alley. Dillenius Island was the first island past the south of the Roasted Archipelago. Right, there's a ship there that heads for the Galagos. Now, with everyone attending, focused on the liners from Bayam to Galagos, no one would imagine that we take a detour to Dillenius. I cannot pronounce these names, man. Dillenius Island and travel from there. The Nitz followed as he was enlightened. On Tuesday morning, Klein personally helped the Nitz don in disguise, making him look like a mixed blood who wore gold-rimmed glasses. Although there was no way to use faceless powers, it was still at least 10 times better than the Nitz's own attempt at disguising himself. They successfully boarded the ship and prepared to head south to Dillenius Island Harbor. Their journey was expected to take 10 hours. Whoosh. The liner left the harbor and steered into the sea. Under the bright sunlight, thin clouds, and blue skies, this hybrid-powered ship silently sailed through the gentle waves amid the cold breeze all the way into the afternoon. At this moment, Klein was inside the cabin pondering over some content in the Book of Secrets. The Nitz was pacing about, thinking about how he could brag to his mates. Suddenly, this vision darkened as though a cloud had drifted over to blot out the sun. Klein subconsciously looked out and saw a gigantic pitch black sailboat. King of the Five Seas Nest? Gigantic? No way, right? Really? Wait. Klein subconsciously looked out and saw that a gigantic pitch black sailboat had appeared at some moment. No shot we're gonna run into Nest. It was nearly 100 meters long and had its sail fully open. By the sides were rows of cannons, but it approached, it steered in different directions, but it still made the surroundings seem to have a black sun pass by. The Nist revealed a reverent and apprehensive expression that was mixed with a longing but abhorrent look. He hissed before whispering in a dreamy manner, "Black Emperor." Yo. Oh, shit, dude. Wait, oh, they actually saw him in person now. Dude, that is so sick. Oh my, dude, this volume is so good, man. This is such a good volume. There are so many crazy encounters in this volume. Like, it literally doesn't stop. It keeps coming, man. It's so crazy, dude. All right, you guys ready? Fucking 575 is called Golden Dream. Chapter 575. It's called Golden Dream, and never have we ever stalled. Upon seeing this gigantic black sailboat, Klein's first reaction was fear and wariness. He suspected the demigod king of the Five Seas Nest was here for him, but he quickly refuted the... Oh, he's not there for him. Tetris? When did the giant Tetris thing appear? But he quickly refuted that guess. This was because apart from using the Black Emperor card in the spirit world, he had nearly never made the card of blasphemy appear in the real world ever since he came out to sea. There were only 2 or 3 times when they appeared due to summoning before he quickly entered the spirit world. With the Grey Fog's screening abilities and the card of blasphemy, anti-divination, and anti-prophecy traits, it's impossible for Nast to lock on to me, so it is a coincidence. Okay. Klein calmed down as he got up. I scrolled down too much. Oh, I scrolled down too much. He calmed down as he got up to walk towards the window. Together with the nets, he looked at the Black Emperor, which defined sailboat logic. The gigantic ship was slowly approaching in a massive shadow, the scenes of the deck becoming increasingly clear. The sailors were either washing the deck or bargaining on the shipboard. None of them had drawn their cutlasses or guns. There were no signs of them planning to plunder the ship. Oh, so they're just there. Okay. Near the cabin, there was a modeled stone chair that was 2 to 3 meters high. On it sat a colossal man that was comparable to a giant. Before he could take in Nest's appearance, the Nitz couldn't help but lower his head, and his body became numb and trembled to the point of prostrating himself. Really? He's that scared? Damn. Klein also sensed the inexplicable sense of might and awe. He didn't forcibly resist it to keep his head up and continue looking at Nest. This had a high chance of attracting his attention, bringing him unwanted trouble. Shit, dude. Even as GERHMAN, he's like, I must keep aura farming. He's like, I cannot put my head down. I cannot bow down to no man. Damn, that is sick, dude. As a person with many secrets, he had to bow his head when required. Klein retracted his gaze as he admired the rugs of the deck. Ah, he bowed. Klein retracted his gaze as he admired the rugs on the deck. After an unknown period of time, he saw the sunlight illuminate the area again as the shadows vanished. He looked up and could no longer see the gigantic pitch-black sailboat. The wind and the seas were calm and the skies were clear. Why would he suddenly be here? Wasn't it said that he was still at the Foxy recently? The Nitz frowned as he muttered to himself in puzzlement. That Black Emperor can cruise through the Sparrow world, so it's very normal for it to come all the way from the Foxy in the span of a few days. This is also probably one of the reasons why Nas is the greatest of the 4 kings. Oh, wait, he's... Wait. King of the 5 seas. So Nast is one of... So wait, I was mixing up the pirates. So I know Nast's title is King of the 5 seas, but he's technically still part of the 4 kings, right? Like, he's still part of the 4. So we have the Misty Woman, right? No, no. Yes, there's like misty, mysterious, something. See, he is the King of Kings, but it says right here, this is also probably one of the reasons why Nas is the greatest of the 4 kings. Does that also imply he's one of the 4 emperors, even though he has the title King of the 5 seas? Klein thought to himself, he believed that Nas was lured by the Black Emperor card, but it was likely that Nas could only determine a vague area. Klein retracted his gaze and sat back down as though nothing had happened. Yes, he is the okay. So he is the King of the 5 seas, but I know that part. But he's technically still part of the 4 emperors. He's just like, he's the pinnacle, right? But he still has that other title, right? Okay. Klein retracted his gaze and sat back down as he thought nothing had happened. The straight line distance between Bayam and Delineus wasn't great, but sufficiently safe sea route was filled with twists and turns, so it took the liner until sunset before it reached the dock. After that, Klein changed his appearance and used a fake identity to buy 2 early tickets and set off before it got dark. They arrived at the Gargus at dawn. The Nitz didn't enter the city, and instead brought Klein on a detour to a private harbor. Then they took a simple fishing boat and set off to sea. After nearly 2 hours, Klein saw a sailboat which was dozens of meters long. It was clear and produced a golden luster from the sunlight reflecting on it. He is a part of them, yes. So he is part of them, and he still has the title of King of the 5 Seas. Got it. Thank you, guys. Okay, that makes more sense. Compared to the similar sailboats, it appeared extremely special. Along the central axis was the main cannon, which was stacked with symbols and patterns. Faint but pure light swirled around it. That's the cannon of purification. That's the cannon of purification. It can only be used 10 times before the 6 priests of light are needed to hold a ritual. They will pray to a corresponding deity to fill it up with spirituality. The Nitz introduced smugly a gigantic version of a charm. After a certain period of time, yeah, it's like the Eternal Blazing Sun. Not the Eternal Blazing Sun. It's like the Church of Steam and Machinery when they were in a monsoon and they were just like firing their cannons, but this is just like a whole other scale, right? A gigantic version of a charm. After a certain period of time, it will likely automatically lose its spirituality. Backing Vice Admiral Iceberg is a Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun, or one that can nurture the priesthood's light. Klein remained stoic as he mumbled inwardly. Back when he first saw the Golden Dream in the Nitz dream, he wasn't too surprised about the main cannon. After all, dreams didn't need to adhere to logic. Perhaps the Nitz had seen an ironclad warship, and its main cannon had left a deep impression on him, causing him to reproduce it in his dreams. To Klein's surprise, the Golden Dream really had something that required extremely copious amounts of knowledge and mysticism. It wasn't something an ordinary faction could produce. Soon, the Golden Dream dispatched a dinghy and quickly steered towards the fishing boat. The net spread his hands open before clenching them tightly. He then jumped down and landed in the dinghy without causing it to shake. He whistled and struck palms with the pirate who was steering. He found the former feeling of the ruling over the ocean again. However, the excitement didn't last long as the dinghy behind him suddenly dipped a little. One more person had joined them. I forgot about the madman. You forgot about him. I don't know how to pronounce it. Let's do this. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. I forgot where's the word even mentioned. I forgot about that madman. The Nitz wiped away his smile and sat down. If it's brought up again, we'll use that text-to-speech thing. Klein observed the pirates and pressed on his hat. He sat down calmly without a word. Before long, he landed on the deck of the Golden Dream and saw Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina Edwards standing in silence. This pirate admiral was nearly identical to how she looked when they met in the dream. There weren't any changes to her or legs. She now wore dark trousers with a pair of leather boots. Ooh. I need to see artwork on this. Instead of wearing a dress, she also had a valiant bearing to her wisdom and beauty. She's more like a pirate this time than a teacher. Klein nodded gently and smiled politely. Good morning, ma'am, captain. Good morning, Mr. GERHMAN, Edwina replied with a smile. She turned around and walked to the spot where the fishing nets were being hung out to dry. She signaled the pirates to walk away and get busy with their own work. Fishing nets? Oh my god, I thought he said she's wearing fish nets. Hold up. I read that wrong. Fishing nets. As expected, a pirate crew that's more like treasure hunters. This is in preparation to improve their meals. Klein followed in silence. The Nitz very naturally found a few of his companions he was most familiar with to have drinks and to brag to. Of course, he didn't let down his guard. From time to time, he would glance over, afraid that his captain would end up exchanging blows with GERHMAN Sparrow. He was ready to get his companions to join the brawl at any moment. This time, Klein didn't wait for Edwina to explain why she had invited him. After 2 seconds of silence, he asked, what do you know of Tracy? He planned on asking all his questions before listening to Edwina's motivations. He wanted to prevent himself from being embarrassed to ask further after rejecting a request he couldn't agree to. Amen. Tracy, Edwina's eyes quivered a little. She's a demon. Who are we talking about? He wanted to prevent himself from being embarrassed to further ask after rejecting a request he couldn't agree to. Tracy, Edwina's eyes quivered a little. She's a demoness, a Sequence 5 demoness of affliction. Demoness? Klein nearly lost it. He felt that his fate seemed to be intertwined with demoness. Really? Sequence 5 demoness of affliction. First, it was Witch Trissy, and then there was Demoness of Pleasure, Madam Sharon, and then there was a Demoness of Pleasure, Trizzy Cheek, and a high-ranking demoness he only heard the voice of. Now there was another Demoness of Affliction, Trissy. Bro, it's always a demoness, man. That ain't that bad. That ain't that bad. You know what? I think Roselle's onto something. Edwina didn't sense the upheavals he was going through and continued. She's different from the typical demoness. She has her own ideals and pursuits. She's quite an oddity in the demoness sect. However, she would still work for the organization doing work such as human... okay, she's a bad person. Such as human trafficking or something else. Different from the typical demoness, she doesn't give up on herself and chooses to give pleasure to women. She doesn't give up on herself and chooses to give pleasure to women. Klein suddenly thought of Red Hair Helene. However, he couldn't be certain because not every demoness was the result of a man changing into a woman. There were real women who wished to become an assassin. After asking for details, Klein deliberated and asked, we meet Nas and his Black Emperor on the way here. In the recent months, matters involving you, Senator Tracy, and Nas had happened in an area over the sea. This is rather abnormal. 4 out of the 4 kings and 7 admirals had involved themselves in a roasted sea in a short span of time. This wasn't even including the recent recruitment Terror Club member, Admiral Stars Catleya. In terms of probability, this was indeed quite abnormal. What a coincidence. Fax? Is that what that means, username? Was that fax? Like a fax machine? Of course, Klein had some theories, but he wished to see if Vice Admiral Iceberg was able to provide some... The plot thickens? Yes, it does. Of course, Klein had some theories, but he wished to see if Vice Admiral Iceberg was able to provide some fresh insight. Edwina listened without saying a word. She pulled the edge of a fishing net and held it in front of her. She took out a fountain pen, a brass dagger, a metallic bottle, and other things from her pockets and the intersection of her belt and placed them on a spread out net. They latched on firmly without moving. It didn't seem like there would be any interaction between them. At this moment, Edwina bent over and picked up a rock and used it to press down on the net, and she placed it in the middle of the open net. The net immediately depressed, causing the surroundings to contract. The fountain pen daggers and bottle tumbles... I read that wrong. The fountain pen, dagger, and bottles tumbled towards the center of the gathering beside the rock. It's probably something like this. Some unknown existences had appeared in the net of fate and is pulling us towards it. Edwina explained simply. This is like an actual model of the law of convergence for beyonder characteristics. Wait, what? I didn't even piece that together. Chat, does he think chat box? Does he think the cat? Ain't no way that's a cat, bro. Hold up. It is a cat! What? Why does that pop up? Sheltern? That's a cat? I thought that was a fax machine. Bro, that looked like a fax machine. Damn, man, I need glasses. Oh, shit. I lost my place. But it's okay. It's okay. I found my place. It's probably something like this. Something unknown, some unknown existence had appeared in the net of fate and is pulling us towards it. Edwin explained simply. This is like an actual model of the law of convergence for beyonder characteristics, Klein thought as he nodded. With regards to this, he was both enlightened but puzzled as well. He was enlightened because Edwina's explanation was nearly the same as his guess, but he was puzzled because it couldn't be used to analyze the problems. The king of the Five Seas nest appeared because of me. Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy can also be barely explained since I did come into contact with Tracy Cheek. As for Vice Admiral Iceberg and Admiral Blood, I can't find a reason. Perhaps it's purely coincidence. I don't know about that. Besides, is the latter that attracted the former out. Klein retracted his gaze and asked about something else. Then he said, Ma'am, Captain, is there a reason for inviting me here? Edwina gave him a deep look and said, your identity indicates that you came from Backland. According to what I know, this identity isn't authentic enough. There's no powerful bounty hunter named GERHMAN Sparrow from here. The faction backing you is very powerful. Furthermore, it has quite an extensive network in Backland. No way she's going to piece it together already. You managed to so quickly notice a problem with my identity. Klein didn't panic as he smiled calmly. Everyone will have some secrets. Edwina remained silent for a few seconds without pressing the issue. She then said, not long before Cavatua died, you sacrificed something to it. Klein turned his head slightly and swept his gaze across the Nitz, who was drinking the beer. Cough, cough, alarmed, the Nitz spewed the beer all over himself. Klein retracted his gaze and didn't deny or admit as he looked at Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina. Edwina continued without a change of expression. After Cavatua died, the sea god is still replying to its believers. This is a really smart woman. All right, next chapter. All right. Chapter 576 is called Vice Admiral Iceberg's Collector's Room. She's a collector? I see a ballot box. Yeah, it looked like a... I mean, that's kind of what it looks like, right? Like, for me, it looked like from a fax machine from up here. But I digress. Before we start stalling too long. Is she suspecting something? Klein looked straight into Edwina's eyes without moving them away, nor did his eyes blink or dodge. After knowing that the Nitz had divulged his sacrificial ritual to Cavatua before it died, Klein had the necessary preparations. If he wasn't standing on the shipboard and was instead sitting on a sofa, then he definitely would have crossed his right leg and leaned back to give a calm and composed answer. He smiled as he raised his left hand. He introduced with a calm tone, this glove of mine is called Creeping Hunger. Klein believed that the Nitz, who had witnessed him in combat, had definitely passed the relevant details on to his captain. Therefore, with Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina being of equal rank as Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus, it wasn't difficult for her to guess that he had acquired Creeping Hunger. In that case, taking the initiative to divulge it gave him a psychological advantage rather than being exposed by her. And for him to suddenly mention it gave it a double meaning. First, he was hinting to her that he had an organization backing him, one that could kill Vice Admiral Hurricane and orchestrate Cavatua's death and reply to its believers in its stead. Second, it was a warning for Edwina that she was not to attempt to investigate or to delve deeper into the matter. instantaneous death of Vice Admiral Hurricane awaited her. At this moment in time, damn, he's fucking threatening her, dude. Shit, that's scary, dude. At this moment in time, Klein continued maintaining GERHMAN Sparrow's persona. He didn't directly threaten her or refuse to admit. Instead, he provided a calm answer to hide his madness. Just a little bit of madness. Edwina nodded slightly and suddenly changed topics. Ooh, okay. I plan on providing a certain amount of assistance to the resistance in the Rorsted Archipelago, mainly in food and fabric. Assistance. Her backing faction is against Lowen, or it just wants to make things difficult for the Church of the Storms. Klein wiped his smile and calmly replied, "This has nothing to do with me. Don't expect me to trip up," he said silently to himself. Edwina turned her head and raised her arm to point to Blazing the Nets, who was drinking while secretly stealing glances. "I will entrust him to handle it, including contacting the Resistance and confirming the time. We'll arrange for a private harbor, and I wish you can provide sufficient help." Piffed. The Nits spewed out a golden waterfall from his mouth. Huff, puff, bam, bam, bam. The two pirates sitting there beside him laughed as they bent their backs and struck the deck, spewing out beer that they had just drunk. One of them had dark skin, like he was covered in a layer of metal skin. His waist was rather thick, and although he wasn't fat, he had no curvature to speak of. Edwina was retracting her gaze and added in an unhurried manner before Klein could speak, "You're an adventurer. I believe you won't decline a job that pays well. You really have found me an excellent excuse." Klein smiled in response. Of course. He didn't ask how much the payment was, while Edwina seemed to forget mentioning it. This intelligent and beautiful pirate, Admiral, Gloomy said, Senor got someone to hold up.
This intelligent and beautiful pirate Admiral gloomily said, Senor got some...
Senor. Okay, Senor got someone to pass me the news that he's willing to buy the Key of the Giants, which I previously discovered of 5,000 pounds. Earlier than usual, but this is the post? Maybe nope. Oh, I thought you guys told me there was a Audrey preview. Oh, there's no preview? Well, you guys said it would have taken like 3 hours. We still have like an hour and a half before like the alleged preview goes up. Hold up, why is there no Audrey preview? If it's her birthday, Tencent is fumbling. No. Have faith. Have faith. Hold up, it's still not over yet. Bro, was hoping. Hold up, they're stalling. They're stalling the post, just like how we are experts at stalling. I see right through them. They're gonna post a birthday post first, and they were like, "We got you good, huh?" And then right after, preview. Right when everybody's going to bed, they drop the preview. Still longer, but there's something posted earlier and no preview. Oh, just give it a sec. Don't worry. It's probably gonna be up in an hour. Have faith. Have faith. Have faith. Have faith, my cult. Have faith, my loving cult. They are etching us for real. This intelligent and beautiful pirate, Admiral Gloomy said, Senor got someone to pass me the news that he's willing to buy the Key of the Giants, which I previously discovered for 5,000 pounds. It was an item that proclaimed to be Death's Key. It was that gigantic black iron key that nearly made the Nits lose his life in Bayam. Klein suspected that it didn't originate from the Dark Second Epoch, but it was something that was connected to the Giant King's court. She's hinting at me to offer a price. Klein was first taken aback before he came to a realization. He couldn't help but inwardly mumble, 5,000 pounds. I don't even know if the key is of any use or if it really involves the Giant King's court. If it doesn't have anything to do with it, can I return it for a refund? Besides, there's no prior information about it. Even if I take it above the Great Fog to divine it, I wouldn't receive any effective revelations. Yes, a simple inference is that if it doesn't involve the Giant King's court, but some other treasure that I have no idea about, then it would be useless if I buy it. The only benefit is that if will disrupt Admiral Blood's plans, it harms him without benefiting me. If it involves the Giant King's court, Admiral Blood is unlikely to find a target location even if he bought it, as it's located in the Forsaken Lands of Gods. Besides, I plan to hunt him. When the time comes, I can obtain the key without spending any money. It's equivalent to having him buy it for me and watch over it for some time. Although such thoughts are very idealistic, it's not impossible. Klein pondered for a few seconds and said, it might not be hiding a huge secret. He deliberately mentioned this to make Vice Admiral Iceberg unwilling to sell the gigantic black iron key to Admiral Blood Center. It was to prevent the latter from rapidly strengthening himself after obtaining the treasure and stepping into the demigod realm. That would bring a considerable calamity upon Klein. That's kind of scary. Edwina listened silently and didn't continue on the topic. She turned her body halfway around and pointed at the cabin's entrance. Breakfast has been prepared for you. Thank you. Who's the cook? Who's the cook? That's what I want to know. I want to know who's the head chef on the Golden Dawn. Thank you, client. With Golden Dawn? Yeah, right. It was called the Golden Dawn. Their ship is called the Golden Dawn. Thank you. Klein took off his hat and bowed. As he followed Vice Admiral Iceberg into the cabin, he quickly recalled it. Oh, Iceberg, Vice Admiral Iceberg. Her celestial globe had the same ice-like particle effects. Okay, all right. I see it. I see it. He quickly recalled the conversation they had just sought out of the true motive behind Edwina's invitation. From German Sparrow's identity problems to the mystical items suspected to be creeping hunger to the matter of the sacrifice to Kavatua while the Dead Sea God continued responding to believers. All of these matters put together does allow one to imagine that I have a secret organization backing me. One whose motives are unknown. As for the faction the Vice Admiral Iceberg belongs to, it's very wary, guarded, and interested in this matter. Therefore, it got her to probe me in person to see if they can obtain something. What organization would she be a part of, man? The Moses... No, it's not. It wouldn't be the Moses ascetic order. Maybe? No? That's like for mystery priors. We'll see. Hold up. As for the faction Vice Admiral Iceberg belongs to, it's very wary, guarded, and interested in this matter, but they're not giving off any malice. Oh, it's Golden Dream, not Golden Dawn. My bad. Did I say Dawn? Yeah, my bad. Thank you. Thank you, Zen. Therefore, it got her to probe me in person to see if they can attain something. They're still rather friendly at the moment. Extending their assistance to the resistance is a way to convey their intentions. It seems they're leaning towards cooperating with the organization backing me. Of course, the unknown always leaves others afraid. Without grasping the situation, chances of Vice Admiral Iceberg and company attacking me is very, very low. If they realize the secret organization backing me was established only half a year ago, including the world in Shio, whose connection has been established but not recruited, including the world in Shio, whose connection had been established but not recruited. Okay, so we're bringing her back. Okay, so she might still join at the end of this volume. There aren't more than 10 people. I wonder if they will get so infuriated that they end up losing control. As his thoughts raced, Klein entered the cabin and followed a dim passageway, passing through the one wooden door after another. He followed Edwina up the stairs and arrived at her brighter second level. Before entering the pirate dining hall, they passed by a half-open room. Klein casually glanced inside and saw a gigantic black iron key sitting on a wooden table. These items are evidence from our various treasure hunting expeditions. Most of them are mementos, while others have yet to show their value and require further study. Edwina appeared cold, but her explanations were in great detail. If he had the feeling that she was afraid that he wouldn't understand her or was left puzzled. I read that wrong. I apologize. And when she mentioned the word study, her aqueous, blurry blue eyes clearly lit up a little. Evidence of the various treasure hunting expeditions. Klein couldn't help but look inside carefully. At this point, Edwina pushed open the door and walked in. She then introduced in passing, "This is a gold coin from the 4th epoch's Solomon Empire." Klein's gaze shifted over and saw a coin placed inside a frame. It was entirely dark gold in color, and though it was combined from two semicircles of different dimensions, it looked extremely asymmetrical, and there was a sharp crown engraved on the surface. Oh, the black crown, right? On its surface, it looks very similar to the crown worn by the king of the 5 Seas Nest. And that goes hard, bro. Yo, what's up, dude? Yo, what's up? Hello. Edwina was like an owner who liked to flaunt her collection. She began introducing the items in the room, making Klein recall a familiar person. Old Mr. Eye of Wisdom, the great detective, Isengard Stannen. Aw, hopefully we get him soon, man. I miss him already. The great detective, Isengard Stannen. In regards to the trait of flaunting collections, they're very similar. Is this a tendency of people with huge collections? Wait, Mr. Stanton had studied in Lemberg for 4 years. Vice Admiral Iceberg description includes information that Edwina Edwards that hails from Lemberg. This Lemberg's capital is the headquarters of the Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom. Mr. Stanton also admitted that he converted his faith to the God of Knowledge and Wisdom while studying abroad. Could the faction backing Vice Admiral Iceberg be them? Klein listened and thought until Edwina stopped in front of the huge iron black key. Just like he had seen in a dream, the key was about the size of a 7-string zither? Zither? I can't even pronounce that word. An ordinary human would have to wrap their arms around it to move it. It was dull and ancient looking. The patterns on it are similar to the City of Silver style. It clearly has a giant trait. Klein nodded and was just about to retract his gaze when he heard Edwina say, "You can study it. You are letting me study it. You probably have no idea how many latent problems I've triggered in the past. Aren't you afraid that the golden dream will disappear once you let me study it?" Klein criticized himself in self-deprecating manner before reaching out his right hand to touch the black iron key that seemed to belong to giants. Oh shit. We started at 470, so this is our 7th chapter today. Merlin. He found it ice cold to the touch, and regardless of how much spirituality he injected into it, it was useless. Unfortunately, I cannot bring it above the gray fog to study it. Klein retracted his gaze hand and shook his head indescribably. He shifted his gaze onto a book in goat skin placed on the same table. On the brown cover were words written in ancient Faystic, Grozel's Travels? Grozel's? Like Roselle? This is somebody else. Grozel's Travels. It originates from a sunken ship. It had been soaked at the bottom of the sea for 165 years without suffering any damage. Edwina introduced. It records a story about a giant named Grozel. He had decided to head to the nation of the forest to hunt the King of the North. I understood that Game of Thrones reference. The King of the North, a powerful frost dragon. Okay, he wasn't a frost dragon. Along the way, he encounters companions, a female elf, a devout ascetic, an aristocrat of the Solomon Empire, and a Loan soldier. The story develops until they encounter the King of the North before it suddenly comes to a halt. It's not the end, but the latter pages cannot be opened no matter what methods are used. You can give it a try. This isn't a notebook in a journal style, but rather a novel. This novel sure is odd. It puts together characteristics from different epochs and eras. It should be something that was recently produced. Klein flipped through the book and allowed the yellowish-brown pages to slide past one after another. The content was roughly what Edwina said, but the story appeared rather abrupt and fractured. It kept making Klein suspect that if he had missed a paragraph. For example, the protagonist would become familiar with one another moments after encountering each other as strangers. Soon he browsed to the last few pages and found that they were stuck together. There's no way he could pry them apart. Such effects probably could be dealt with above the gray fog. I wonder what sort of accidents might happen. Klein turned his head to look at Vice Admiral Iceberg. Edwina fell silent for a moment before saying, "If you wish to have it, I can sell it to you. I've studied it for years without gleaning anything from it. However, I have a condition." "What is it?" Klein returned with a question. Like, just tell me whatever you find. Edwina pursed her lips and I scroll down too much. Edwina purses her lips. "If you figure out something, you have to tell me the results so that I won't have to be puzzled over it. As long as you agree to this condition, I can sell it to you for cheap." Okay, how cheap? If the key was 5,500, Klein's interest was suddenly piqued. How much? Get out of here, bro. He found the fanfic. Dude, what the fuck? 8,000 pounds? Damn, she tripping now, bro. Who does she think he is? Who does she think she is? An admiral? Okay, no, I know she's an admiral. Like, come on, 8,000? That's a lot. Edwina said calmly. Klein deliberately pondered as he nodded indifferently. I'll consider it. I'll consider how to pretend that this never happened. He thought silently to himself. He was like, I don't really want the book anymore. Never mind. You keep it, Katlia. Just let me read in the bathroom one day and we'll call it even. I thought the book was 165 years old. This chapter is called Book from More Than 3,000 Years Ago. Okay. This got a little bit more exciting. Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina didn't show any changes in her expression when she heard GERHMAN Sparrow say that she needed to consider it. She nodded calmly. "No hurry. She seems to feel that I'm unable to make a decision regarding a transaction of this scale and that I need to seek advice from the secret organization backing me. Is this a problem of me not being able to make the decision? This is a problem of not having the money." Klein lampooned and closed Grozel's Travels. He asked in a deep voice, "Do you know who the author is? What happened to the people who last possessed his book?" Edwina walked in front of him and reached out her right hand. She rubbed the cover of her fingertip and said, "The owners from before it cannot be identified, and the sinking of the ship has resulted in irrelevant information being lost to history. Similarly, we're unable to confirm who the author is. Oh, the book doesn't include the author's name. I've used some mystical arts to study and discover that the goat skin was created at least 3,000 years ago, before the cataclysm. This is why I believe it's worth... Okay, that's why. This is why I believe it's worth at least 8,000 pounds. A book from 3,000 years ago. There's a dragon, an elf, and a human... Oh my god. I should have said it last chapter. I was like, watch like all these characters be one of the ancient gods, right? Hiding in plain sight. Okay, that's what I thought. I'm like, somebody from like... What I thought is like somebody from the ancient times wrote like first-hand events of what the ancient gods did, and then he hid it in plain sight. Like, I've always assumed like maybe Force will one day write a book on the Terror Club, but just hide it all in plain sight, and like that's what's happening here. But I'm like, wait, no, the book is like 165 years ago, so I was like, it's probably just a coincidence. No such thing as a coincidence. This is why I believe it's worth at least 8,000 pounds. Yeah, a book from 3,000 years ago. There's a dragon, an elf, and a human ascetic, a Solomon Empire noble, a Loan soldier. These are all concepts from years later. A magical book that contains the power of prophecy, or that someone specially used an ancient goatskin to create it, but it's meaningless to do so. It's purely a hoax. Klein deliberately curled the corners of his mouth without any intent of smiling. Damn. The giant's name is Grozel. Could it be the... Oh, I just realized something. We are at 577. We have not updated this part. Hold up, I can't forget. The giant's name is Grozel. Could the author be Roselle? Wait! Yes! If he was alive 200 years ago, and he was there for like 30 years or so before he was killed, this would be around the time he would have wrote this. So this would have been he would have wrote this towards the end of his life or something. No, Roselle's name originated from a root word in Jotun. When ancient never mind. When ancient Facing evolved into Intis, there was a second change, making it have a different meaning. Edwina explained in details the origins of Roselle's name. It left Klein stunned as he felt like he was back in school. He nodded gently and said in an unperturbed tone, "If it's an ancient piece of work, I'm very curious as to why a frost dragon would be named the King of the North. What sequence and pathways does it correspond to?" Edwina raised her gaze from Grozelle's travels and looked at Klein. Before the appearance of the first blasphemy state, there was no concept of sequences and pathways. Furthermore, many creatures didn't abide by such arrangements, and that epoch, chaos and mania was the basic attitude of everything. Now, what I'm assuming, the second blasphemy slate has to be like 22 brand new pathways. That's probably what it is, right? Like, before the appearance of the first blasphemy slate, there was no concept of sequences and pathways. So once the first blasphemy slate, and I know we still don't have more info, like they've just mentioned it, but we didn't get anything else on it. First blasphemy slate is what establishes the 22 pathways. I assume the second blasphemy slate inverts them in some way where like they're the opposite, or it's like 22 brand new ones, or it's like 22 enhanced ones. In that epoch, chaos and mania was a basic attitude to everything. Some dragons might gather many beyond characteristics related to frost, just like a demoness frost, a zombie's frost, and a weathered warlock's frost. As such, it would possess rather powerful strengths and a relatively high level. Of course, such a gathering would definitely lead to death and a loss of control. This means that if it doesn't die, it would definitely lose control, become a monster. However, a dragon is a monster in and of itself. If there are many similar products of this sort of the dragons, giants, and elves, then it could be understood why the second epoch is known as the Dark Epoch. Klein pondered for a moment and inquired as though he was talking to himself. This results in the wastage of beyonder characteristics. Edwina looked at him for a few seconds. Emperor Roselle once said, "Whatever separates will definitely converge, and whatever converges will definitely separate." So he's talking about the law of He's talking about the law of beyond characteristics. Okay. The Emperor said that before. I understand the first part. That's another form of saying the law of convergence of beyond characteristics. But what does the second part mean? Whatever separates will definitely converge. And whatever converges will definitely separate? So the characteristics will eventually separate. Oh, not eventually. They will definitely separate. The Emperor Rizal said that before. I understand the first part. That's another form of saying the law of convergence is beyond our characteristics, but what does the second part mean? After the convergence happens to a certain extent, it would tend to separate and disassociate. When one doesn't belong to a particular pathway, the extremely chaotic convergent mix will cause a distortion. The more chaotic it is, the more repulsion there is between characteristics. Such words are likely to be said to anyone. I'm just picturing, it's a loop, Cook. Dude, I'm just picturing like a crazy ass, like demonic, twisted, like Beyonder that like lost control. But then like since he's like from this whole like crazy, twisted whatever and whatnot, but then he's like completely rational. Like he's lost control, but he's completely sane and coherent. So like he knows what he's doing, right? But now he has the strengths and like dexterity of losing control on top of being completely rational. Like that has to happen at some point, right? I always say right at the end of saying something, like if I'm right. Like, wait, hold on. Like, right, guys? Like, as I want you guys to confirm. Like, that has to happen. After the convergence happens to a certain extent, it would tend to separate and disassociate. The more chaotic it is, the more repulsion there is between characteristics. So, like, some endgame being is going to be, like, the most chaotic thing we've ever seen that, like, lost control because of this second part. Because it'll definitely separate or whatever. And then he's completely sane in its own way, right? It's like Hulk and Marvel. He's like, the trick is I've always been angry. Like he's angry, but he's like completely coherent, right? Isn't just losing control, just going, yes, but like when you lose, like someone's gonna lose control, go crazy, but they're gonna be like the most rational they've ever been, which is gonna make them the most dangerous and strongest opponent we've ever seen. And maybe that's going to be someone that's taken like all the uniqueness from all the other deities, kind of like the ancient sun god did, right? Maybe, well, maybe. I keep saying right. No, don't wait. Don't confirm. Don't confirm. Don't either confirm nor deny. After the emperor perished, I lost my place, controlled, and yes, that's what I'm saying. Thank you, username. I'm saying like we're going to find someone that's been able to control their insanity. Thank you. Oh my god, you're wording it better than me. Perhaps revered insanity. Ooh. I understood that reference. Easiest cooking. I understood that reference, guys. Hold up. I actually understood that RI reference. Such words aren't likely to be said to anyone. Not just anyone, but like him. Like the him, right? It definitely isn't something that spreads out in public. Last time I guessed from the Vice Admiral's usage of Rozelle's dream spell and her last name that she's a descendant of one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, Edwards. It's extremely possible. After Emperor perished, their family escaped from the Lindbergh and gradually converted their faith to the God of knowledge and wisdom. What a good teacher. She answered any questions. Klein didn't speak further as he continued admiring vast Admiral Iceberg's collection. At the same time, he had some thoughts. He planned on asking Little Son via the world during the Terror Gathering if he knew of the book Rozelle's Travels. Of course, in order to prevent the Hangman from sensing something problematic with the world and hence figure out something was amiss with the fool, he decided to communicate in private while blocking everyone else. After a brief excursion of the room, Edwina led Klein out and entered the captain's room and the dining hall. The relatively special food here is yogurt. You can add strawberry jam and other things. You can also directly add honey. Edwina pointed to the row of food outside. There's some dried fish that isn't bad. They come from the deep sea, species that have yet to be named. As she spoke, she gestured for Klein to take the food for himself to bring back to the room. She then got up and made herself an example. Klein took some yogurt of unknown origins and added a few spoonfuls of honey. Then he carried his tray and placed the pork sausages, buttered bread, and other foods on it. During this process, he saw a young man dressed in a white shirt and black vest, decked out with a flowery bow tie, looking more like an office worker than a pirate, approaching Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina and have a hushed exchange with her. The man had pretty good looks with almost blonde hair and other than his slightly black hair roots, his hair was neatly combed to the side. Okay, this looks like a new character. We should change music? We probably should. Are we still recording? Yes, we're still recording. His eyes were a very light lake green color and his nose was sharp. He had thin lips and that made him exude a trustworthy vibe. This is giving me Leonard vibes for a second. This is for easy for getting the reference. What reference? Oh, thank you. I understood that RI reference. Thank you. Thank you for that badge of honor. Don't be fooled by that guy's appearance. He's a wolfish can. He stinks deep down. The Nits whispered in contempt, having entered the pirate's dining hall and arriving beside Klein at some point. I'm sorry, is the Nits a little jealous of him? Because he's trying to, like, talk to Katlia and the Nits ain't having it? Is that what's going on here? I'm sensing some tension between these two men. Klein turned his head and glanced at him without saying a word. This was because he knew the Nits would offer to explain without him egging him on. Without waiting for the Nits to speak, a man... I feel like the music is really loud. Without waiting for the Nits to speak, a man with a swollen waist beside him said with a crude and sharp voice, "He's the third mate, Jodson. He used to be a Casanova and part-time pirate, saying that he would steal our captain's heart, but he ended up getting a beating." Oh shit, dude. Oh wait, you're right. Edward, not Katlia. Thank you. Yeah, we're talking about Edward Edwina. Yeah, my bad. For a second, I thought we were with Katlia. Why did I mix them up right now? Hold up, my bad. Yeah. We are with Edwina, not Katlia. Got it. My bad. I lost my place. Where he got a beating. He ended up getting a beating. He ended up staying to be educated dog shit. In short, he's a bad egg. The Nits empathized. He's a bad egg. Another pirate with an iron black skin echoed. Why do I have the nagging feeling that all of you are the same? Klein thought and he said, "Flowery boy-tie Jodson with a bounty of 5,200 pounds, sequence 6. As expected of the standard GERHMAN SPARROW reaction. The Nits glanced to the side as a lingering sense of fear was hidden within his contempt. He's not that strong, but he's very strange. In my brawls with him, no. When in combat, fireball suddenly can't be used, and he will be able to replicate my fire powers." A very familiar description. Klein subconsciously glanced towards Jodson. After some careful thought, he recalled the familiarity. This is very similar to the sealed artifact Blood Vessel Thief, found behind Tingen City's Chana's Gate. Wasn't this blood vessel used against the Magus fight? Right? Klein had already forgotten Blood Vessel's Thief sealed artifact number, but he still remembered clearly that it could temporarily steal a person's beyond powers for themselves. The corresponding pathway, Klein retracted... You can steal them? Yes? I didn't remember that part. You can just steal the beyond pathway? Thinking back to how the Nits dive... Oh, wait, hold up. I skipped the line. The corresponding pathway, Klein retracted his gaze and discovered that the Nits and his two companions were drinking while looking in that direction. Thinking back to how the Nits divulged his sacrifice to Kavatua, Klein took a cup of beer and carried his food tray towards the captain's dining room. He said indifferently, "All of you like her, right?" Klein took a cup of beer and carried his food tray towards the captain's dining room. He said indifferently, "All of you like her, right?" Behind Klein, there was the sound of alcohol spewing out at the same time. Yo, dude, GERHMAN needs to chill, dude. This guy has so much aura. He saw the Nits jump backward through the corner of his eyes, looking at him in horror before turning his head in relief to size up his companions. He's like, all right. He's like, the Nits is like, I gotta step up my game. Everybody has the hots for her, huh? Oh shit. They had unknowingly opened up a gap between themselves as they look and their eyes turned complicated. They looked like they had the fury of being fooled. It's like, ah shit. Everybody literally out of themselves. Klein didn't stop. He returned to the captain's dining room and enjoyed breakfast. After a while, damn, that is so mean, dude. He's like, all of you guys like her, huh? After a while, Edwina carried a meal tray back. She drank a mouthful of milk and paused before saying, "The Nits showed me the summoning ritual of your messenger. It mentions that 1 gold coin is a necessary component, and I'm somewhat perplexed. Does it refer to the low-end gold coins or those from Intis, Facek, or somewhere else?" Any, dude. The weight are all different and the amount of gold they contain is different. Klein thought for a moment before saying, "Low-end gold coin. This is also the gold coin that's worth the most. It's not like I need to pay it for myself," Klein added inwardly. Edwina nodded. "Payment also needs to be done when receiving a reply. Different spirit wood creatures have different hobbies," Klein said. He knew that Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina was a researcher of the spirit world creatures, and he believed that she could understand what he meant. Furthermore, he wasn't lying. He just hid the fact that the messenger owner could also pay for it. He left that part out, right? He's like, I ain't paying for you guys. Yes, Edwina very seriously answered him. I once attempted to find a messenger, but I could only use a trial and error for the incantation. Not only was it dangerous, but it was very difficult to satisfy the requirements. I eventually had to give up. This is one of the reasons. The other reasons is that simulating the power of the undead isn't enough to sign the contract. Your incantation had given me quite the inspiration. Klein ate his breakfast in silence without explaining anything. This was because this was the knowledge he had learned from Mr. Zick. He was at liberty to teach it to others without receiving permissions from him. After a delicious and quiet breakfast, the Golden Dream approached a private harbor and dropped Klein and Danitz off. Danitz looked back at the glimmering golden ship and suddenly sighed. I feel like my friendship has sunk into the ocean. He's like, I have so many enemies now. Klein pressed down on his hat and calmly said, losers can always form alliances among themselves. Dude, fucking Klein needs to chill, dude. This is such a funny ass volume, dude. This is so good. Losers can always form alliances among themselves. Damn, dude. And he's like, because Danitz, you're the real winner. Danitz was unsure whether he should be happy or sad. Damn, dude. That's how good GERHMAN is. You don't know if he's your friend or your enemy. After changing their identities and creating fake identifications, they successfully bought tickets back to Bayam and boarded the ship. Klein finally had a private space for himself. He entered the washroom and went above the great fog and began scanning through the believers' prayers. This time, the first thing that appeared before him was the bald member of the Resistance Kalat. Honorable God, we have discovered the whereabouts of the red-haired Helene. She currently hides in the Intis Embassy. This has been confirmed by a laundry maid and gardener. All right. Next chapter, brothers and sisters. Let's keep going, dude. The last chapter for today is called Abduction. Chapter 578. In the Intis Embassy of the City of Generosity, Bayam, Helene sat in the front of a dresser looking at the beautiful yet somewhat frail reflection. She sat there in a daze for several minutes. Her escape from the Black Death had been filled with anticipation and torment. She was afraid that at any time mishap would cause her to be discovered by the pirates or adventurers, causing her to be caught by Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy, once again making her lose all her freedom. She would then never be... Oh, because I remember that. She left. She was originally part of her, and then she left and did her own thing. She joined the Moses Asset Order, right? And then left her. She would never be able to return to her hometown and return to the life she originally had. Only when she used the meager connections left by her family that she managed to hide inside her country's embassy and obtain a ticket to leave the sea, providing her a little relief. However, there still wasn't enough to make her feel at ease. She believed that everything would only be true when she stepped onto the northern continent. With this in mind, Helene couldn't help... Oh, wait, we're talking about Helene. I'm sorry, wrong person. With this in mind, Helene couldn't help but raise her right hand and touch her cheeks, which weren't considered fair but was sufficiently healthy. She realized that her exquisiteness had improved significantly since her time as a sea merchant. She felt like time had reversed, wow, I'm reading wrong. Time had reversed, making her mistake herself and returning to her days as a young lady. In fact, after entering the Intis Embassy, she had additional choices other than escaping the sea. I'm realizing it's hard for me to read if I'm not following with my mouse. Holy shit. It's taking me more brain power over here. Cooperate with the Church of Storms, Lowen's military or the embassy. By using herself as bait, they could capture Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy. But after considerable thought, she finally gave up on this plan. She even begged her family elder, who was an officer in the embassy, to keep the information of her hiding in there from others. Regardless, she ultimately didn't cause any actual harm. I love you too, Ellie. Many a time she indulged and satisfied me, apart from every night. Regardless, she ultimately didn't cause me any actual harm. Many a time she indulged and satisfied me, apart from every night. But that's only on the surface. Amid her recollections, Helen quickly blushed red. Those intoxicating nights, the fiery passion from her limbs intertwined with each other, and the unimaginable pleasure flashed past her mind, leaving her unable to compose herself. Ayo, whoa. Helene slowly took a deep breath before exhaling. Yo, I'm about to take a deep breath over here. Woo! It got hot in here. She shook her head and made her pinging for freedom, her homeland, and her family occupy her heart again. She once again looked at her reflection and coiled up her drooping red hair. Then she thickened her eyebrows with makeup and darkened the contours, making her facial features sharper and pronounced. After this round of makeup, Helene looked more androgynous. That's like where you look both male and female, right? Or like you look in between. Androgynous, with a masculine air to her. Finally, right here. With a masculine air to her. Finally, she took off her clothes and used a cloth to flatten her chest. She then wore a white shirt, a black vest, men's trousers, and a double-breasted frock coat. Finally, she took a silk hat and wore it on her head, hiding the cold red hair inside. Oh. At this moment, her reflection appeared more like a handsome young man than a lady. Her emerald-like eyes specifically seemed to suit her getup, giving her an alluring level of wow, I cannot read like this. Hold up. I'm sorry, Ellie. Hold up. Let me move this over here, because I actually got to scroll down. Seemed to suit her getup, giving her an alluring level of oh my god, I cannot read, dude. Profundity. Helena patiently waited until someone knocked on her door. She picked up her luggage and walked on the door. She followed the good friend of her senior family members all the way to the side door in the embassy garden. A carriage was there waiting for her. Here, let me put you down slowly. Androgynous. Got it. Androgynous. A carriage was there waiting for her. It was to send her to the harbor where she would board a liner and head for the Lowen Kingdom Prince Harbor. There, she would make a detour to return to Intis. Helene had anti-tracking beyond... I forgot about that. She has anti-tracking beyond her powers. She carefully observed the surroundings, including the carriage driver. A thin and borrowed local doesn't like wearing hats. She looks identical to the one I met before. She looks a little nervous, but that's normal. After Helene did her final check, she thanked her family senior's friend, carried her luggage, and boarded the carriage. When the wheels started to roll, she pursed her lips and looked out the window, watching one Intis parcel tree after another being quickly left behind. This gave her inexplicable feeling as though she was back in Tyr. It was a huge city filled with sunshine, located in the region of the Rhine River and Srenzo River. It was a radiant and enchanting scene with all sorts of roses. It was a place with bustling arts and humanities, a sacred land for artists, musicians, and novelists. This was Intis' capital. After Emperor Rizal rebuilt it, it was a true sense of word, a world-class metropolis. It was Helene's hometown. She grew up there and often cried when she saw it in her dreams. After an unknown period of time, Helene suddenly felt something was amiss. The surrounding streets were turned more and deserted and remote. As a sea merchant, although she spent most of her time in the Fog Sea and wasn't too familiar with Bayam in the Sonia Sea, being a Sequence 9 hunter made her sufficiently alert. Is this route correct? Helene moved from her seat and carefully asked the carriage driver. She was prepared to jump off the carriage and produce a fireball at any moment. Here we go. All right, I'm sensing a fight. The carriage driver didn't look back as he continued looking forward. He said with a sycophant smile, "Honorable lady, this route is closer, and it's not like it's easy to get into jams." I'm sorry if you can hear Ellie breathing on the mic right now. She's kind of close right here. As you know, Bam was built years ago. Back then, there weren't many people or carriages. Many streets are narrow around noon, and in the evening, it's very easy to encounter jams. Walking would even... Oh my god, I can't read. Walking would be even faster than taking a carriage. Is that so? Helene thought about it and believed his explanation. This was... Are you barking at me, Ellie? This was because she had encountered such situations in several cities. Tyr is still the best. When Emperor Rizal reformed the old city districts, he had the foresight to widen the roads. There's sufficient space even today. Helene had this thought flash through her mind when she heard the horse pulling the carriage, nigh seemingly in pain. Wait a moment, it seems to have stepped on something. The carriage driver... sounds a little coincidental. The carriage driver stopped the carriage to the side and jumped off. Here we go. Helene originally didn't think much of it, but sweeping the area with the corner of her eye, she realized that there were in an uninhabited quiet alley. Her heart... Ooh, this is turning bad. Here we go. 15 minutes. 15 minutes or so. In 15 minutes or so, we're going to get a new character trailer. All right, we got to hold out. After this chapter ends, we're going to hold out for those 15 minutes and see if they drop it. Wait a moment, it seems to have stepped onto something. The carriage driver stopped, carrying to the side and jumped off. Helene originally didn't think much of it, but was sweeping the area with the corners of her eyes. She realized that they were in an uninhabited, quiet alley. Her heartstrings tightened, and she didn't hesitate to attempt breaking through the carriage walls and escape. Regardless of whether it was an overreaction or not, she believed that it was necessary. At that moment, an intense horror surged out from the bottom of her heart. It felt like she had been locked onto by an extremely hungry monster. Okay, here we go. The pressure she felt at a spiritual level left her hesitant. She didn't dare to rashly take action. Following that, she heard a deep voice. I won't harm you? Oh, here we go. I have some questions for you. Who is it? Oh, it's Klein. Helene's mind raced as she quickly considered the options placed before her. Ultimately, she didn't rashly escape. She sat back in her spot under the tremendous, terrifying pressure. She planned on assessing the situation first before adjusting her plans. The door to the carriage opened and the thin, viral local carriage driver walked in. He sat opposite Helene, and he was none other than the faceless kind. In order to act as the carriage... Oh, he's the carriage driver! In order to act as the carriage driver, he had specifically practiced how to drive a horse and carriage. This was a technique he had failed to properly learn while he was on Tinkin City Nighthawk Squad. Due to the little amount of time he had, he didn't master sufficiently and could only use Creeping Hunger's aura to successfully make the horse obedient. Oh, that's how he's making the horse listen to him. At the same time, the Nitz, who was hidden nearby, quickly ran over and took the carriage driver's seat and began driving the carriage. His round felt hat was pressed low and he was dressed like a real carriage driver. Helene bent her back in a guarded manner like a leopard who was ready to pounce at any time. She felt the gaze of the man opposite her was sweeping through her forehead and her eyebrows, her eyes, nose, mouth, neck, chest, waist, and legs. It left her extremely uneasy. She had encountered such gazes and methods of sizing her up back in Intis and Trier and during the days when she was out at sea. It was something that disguised perverts filled with sexual desires possessed. But this time, she strangely didn't feel insulted. She didn't have the feeling that the man would rip off her clothes or was fantasizing about something abnormal. Instead, he looks like he's studying food. He's like an icy cold snake that slithers across the skin. Helene finally couldn't bear it as he asked, "What questions do you have?" After fully grasping the looks and features, Klein leaned forward and placed his arms on the thighs in a natural manner. He slightly clasped his palms and said, "Have you heard of a person named Jimmy Necker?" Helene took a few seconds to recall before firmly shaking her head. She slightly frowned and asked in a daze, "Have you gotten the wrong person? He's a tycoon." "Hi, Ellie. He's a tycoon, someone who likes to collect things, right, Ellie? Have you heard of such a person from Tracy, Ellie?" Klein asked again. Tracy. Helene sighed secretly. Ellie, we're almost done with the chapter. We're like half a paragraph. Helene sighed secretly and replied seriously, "No, she never mentioned the tycoon who likes collecting." Ellie, wait, we're reading a beautiful interrogation. Wait, hold up. Klein looked at the red-haired lady eyes and said with an unhurried tone, "Then, does her room have any ancient documents regarding the southern continent's Balam Empire?" Ellie, hey, we're almost done. Ellie, we're almost done, Ellie. Hold up. "No, she's not someone who enjoys reading documents. She hates reading. She even gets me to read novels to her." With that said, Helene revealed a bitter smile. "I think I found my place." No. She said, "No, Ellie. She's not someone who enjoys reading documents. She hates reading. She even gets me to read novels to her." With that said, Helene revealed a bitter smile. Wait, Ellie, we're almost done. "What novels does she read?" Klein asked without changing tone. "Hey, no, I'm not going to open the door. No, you're going to be moody with me? Fine. Those classics by Rizzola as well as any... No, now you got to wait. Nah, I'm going to be tough, Dad. Those classic by Rizzola as well as any contemporary romance stories," Helene answered frankly. Klein nodded. "Does she have a collector's room?" You better chill, Ellie. You better chill. We're like half a page down. "Yes, but apart from her and a few mysterious visitors, no one is allowed entry, including me," Helene said as she recalled. Let me let her out. All right, we're going to go for a walk. But you still got to wait. You still got to wait outside. Wait. She's going to roll over. I already know it. Fucking Ellie. Wait, guys. Stop. D, what are you sending me? Stop it. Stop. Don't even tell me what that link is. I don't even want to look at it. Let me finish the chapter and we can do our outro. Hold up. I don't even know why you sent that twice, okay? You guys be like, I either click it or I don't click it. Don't hype me up. Come on. Why you gotta do this to me, D? Really? Really? All right, hold up. I'll look at it right now. Hold up. I don't know what that is.